unlock a bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
2 guests we're very happy to see all the time. Patrick Christie's and Emily Carver, husband and wife, and their new little product, little baby George. Peter Alexander.
Close enough.
Close enough. We won't quibble about the order. Yeah, this is baby George.
Congratulations, the two of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what sort of birth was it, Emily?
The traditional way.
Was it easy?
I was induced a little bit early because they were worried that maybe he was measuring a little small. So they wanted to get him out, which did mean that it was very, very painful indeed. But I did finally get an epidural towards the end.
How much did you weigh? Sorry, I was going to say.
6.5 pounds.
Yeah,
so a little one.
Honestly, I was in awe of Emily. She basically did all of it on 2 paracetamol until right at the end. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, but that wasn't because I wanted to. That's because the epidural took a while to arrive.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, to watch and just to be there, really. I felt very sorry for you, obviously, but, you know, it was...
But the staff were amazing. I had 3 midwives all sort of cheering me on. Push, push, push.
Oh.
And you?
And, of course, him.
I was just,
and my mother.
I was supervising.
You were supervising.
I was supervising.
So how have you two taken to being parents? I mean, there you were leading this life, you know, and then little George comes along. Have you taken to it easily, or have you surprised yourselves, or...?
I think we've been quite natural with it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's still...
I mean, as natural as you can be. I mean, not to toot our own horns, but I think it's going pretty well.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's action-packed show. After 2 years and 2 days of brutal conflict, the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is finally due to begin tonight. With all 20 remaining Israeli hostages set to be released on Monday, might we finally see peace in the Middle East? And we'll also have all the latest on this truly historic day. At 4 p.m. today, we'll be live from the White House as Donald Trump, who Israel say will now travel to the country to Jerusalem on Sunday. Well, today he holds a cabinet meeting that is expected to shed more light on the peace deal. Might Donald Trump finally receive the Nobel Peace Prize that he believes he so richly deserves? But as the guns fall silent in Gaza, will the pro-Palestine marchers on British streets finally lay down their arms? Well, ahead of their own Downing Street protest this evening, I'll be joined in the studio by the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism to ask them, does the Palestine mob want peace, or will their culture war rage on? And after a petition to stop Keir Starmer's digital ID plans topped 2.8 million, the embattled Prime Minister now faces a fresh revolt, this time from his own MPs. One disgruntled Labour MP has blasted Sir Keir's reverse Midas touch, claiming the plan has been tainted for another 5 years. Might this be Keir Starmer's poll tax moment? That's all coming up in your next hour. Peace in the Middle East may finally be upon us. And doesn't it just put into perspective how pointless the European Union has been, how pointless Keir Starmer has been, how pointless they've been in Canada, in Australia, in France, around the world. They simply backed the wrong horse. They threw their weight behind Palestine, and the Israelis were condemning us, saying we had blood on our hands. Today, a truly giant political whale came into view and smashed the sprats out of sight. Donald Trump has got the job done. And he's got it done swiftly, and in a way that'll be leaving many of his critics even having to say thank you to Donald Trump if this comes through, with Donald Trump due to visit Jerusalem on Sunday ahead of those hostages being released on Monday. Are we finally on the edge of history, and might Donald Trump get that Nobel Peace Prize? Get in touch. We'll be with Donald Trump 4 p.m. live from the White House. But first, here's your latest news headlines, and it's Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you. The top stories. Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid into Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. The IDF says it's already preparing to adjust deployment lines ahead of the cabinet meeting in Jerusalem later today. If ministers sign off, a 72-hour countdown begins for the hostages to be freed, with President Trump predicting all 20 surviving captives will be home by Monday. President Trump spoke to Fox News just hours after the deal was agreed.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
Well, the Prime Minister has personally thanked US President Donald Trump for his role in the plan to end the fighting in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer also praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the first phase of a Gaza peace plan would not have happened without President Trump's leadership.
And I will take this opportunity to put on record my thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations. It is a relief to the world, and I think particularly of the hostages who've been held a very long time and their families, and to all the civilians in Gaza who've been so affected by this conflict. And so it does now need to be implemented. And as for the next stages, we, the UK, stand ready to work with others on implementing the next stages.
Sir Keir Starmer was given a bold welcome in India, with streets in Mumbai lined with thousands of photos of him and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On his first visit to the country, he's led a record delegation of more than 100 UK business, university and cultural leaders on a two-day trade mission. He's been unveiling new business and film ideas, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. In other news, millions of households in England face even higher water bills after 5 major suppliers won an appeal to UK's competition regulator. Anglian, Northumbrian, Southern, Wessex and South East Water can now raise bills by an extra 3% on top of Ofwat's approved increases. The watchdog says it's to help cover rising borrowing costs, but insists most of the company's requests were largely unjustified. It means customers will shoulder part of the £550 million in extra revenue granted to the firm. Thames Water's separate appeal has been delayed as it works on a rescue deal. Hate crimes in England and Wales have risen for the first time in 3 years, with sharp increases in racially and religiously motivated offences. The Home Office says anti-Muslim hate crimes jumped nearly 20%, fuelled by unrest after the Southport murders and riots last summer. Religious hate crimes overall hit a record high, up 3%, while race hate offences rose 6% to more than 82,000. Crimes targeting Jewish people dropped by 18% outside London, but the figures exclude data from the Met Police. In total, police logged more than 137,000 hate crimes across England and Wales in the past year. All of the victims of the Post Office Horizon scandal will now get free legal advice for the first time as part of a major change to the government's compensation scheme. It follows a damning public inquiry that called the scandal one of the worst miscarriages of justice in UK history. More than 900 sub-postmasters were wrongly prosecuted after the faulty Horizon IT system made it appear money was missing from their accounts. Business Secretary Peter Carl says there's more to do to bring justice to those affected. And Sir Keir Starmer's launching a 4-week blitz to bring the buzz back to Britain's pubs, making it easier for venues to stay open later, host live music and serve food outdoors. The Prime Minister says pubs are the beating heart of UK communities and wants to cut red tape holding the industry back. It follows a government review which found outdated licensing rules were shutting down historic venues. Sir Keir Starmer says when our locals do well, the economy does too. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour.
My Claim Group sponsors the GBNews Finance Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of the markets. The pound buying you $1.3367 and €1.1505. The price of gold is £3,016.91 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,504 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GBNews Finance Report.
Thank you, Tatiana. Huge breaking news to start the show today. Donald Trump is now expected to land in Jerusalem on Sunday. Now, according to Israel, the US president is expected to fly after the Gaza peace deal is finally secured. And it comes as the Israeli cabinet votes on a deal that would bring a ceasefire and the release of all 20 surviving hostages within days. Let's now speak with GBNews' home and security editor, Mark White. Mark, welcome to the show. Truly history in the making. Say what you like about Donald Trump. He goes in and he seems to get the job done. The tough talking is over. It seems we are finally approaching peace in the Middle East. Tell us all about it.
Well, it's certainly not going to be an easy or indeed a quick process. It's a 20-point plan, and what is being signed at the moment, we understand it was signed a little earlier in Egypt and is now about to be ratified by the Israeli cabinet, who are beginning a meeting in Israel at the moment. And once that has been signed, then we expect that first phase, the ceasefire and the hostage release to begin, Martin. But at the moment, there's not a ceasefire. Then we can bring you some live shots looking into Gaza with the Israeli military telling people in Gaza not to go back to those areas of conflict in Gaza just now, the areas that have been evacuated, because it is still a war zone. And we've seen a number of shots from the live camera positions looking into Gaza today already, smoke emanating from a number of buildings. So still very dangerous until that ceasefire comes into effect. And an Israeli government spokesperson has said that the way they expect things to play out in the coming hours is for the Israeli cabinet to ratify the first phase of this peace deal, and then the ceasefire not beginning immediately, as was being reported earlier today, Martin, but to begin within 24 hours. So it's not safe yet, but hopefully this time tomorrow it will be safe. The fighting will have stopped. The Israeli Defence Forces will have retreated to predetermined areas that have been agreed with Hamas, that still gives them control of about 53% of Gaza, of the Gaza Strip, but they withdraw from some key areas initially, when we then begin the next phase, which is the release of those 48 hostages, 20 of them still alive, we understand, but sadly 28 others who died, their bodies still desperately wanted, of course, and understandably so, by their family members.
Mark White, we've seen during these past 2 years and 2 days, previous hostages been released, but nothing will top this, I'm sure. And I'm also struck, Mark White, by jubilation on both sides of this conflict. We see there somebody dressed in what appears to be a papier-mâché Donald Trump head on the Israeli side, and also jubilant scenes on the streets of Gaza City. Of course, they want this punishing war to be over. But, Mark, I want to talk about the politics of this, because Donald Trump has come in and he's just out-muscled everybody. Say what you like about him, he demanded all hostages were released. It was a red line, and Hamas blinked first. And I wonder, Mark White, if we look back on this and look and examine the West's role in this. Israel has repeatedly said the United Kingdom has blood on its hands by recognising the state of Palestine, echoed, of course, in France, in Canada, in Australia. Surely there'll be a shattered reputational trust issue coming out the back end of this. And a lot of people will be saying, Mark White, Sir Keir Starmer, David Lammy, did they back the wrong horse?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that in India today at his news conference, you saw the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, desperately, I think, trying to remain relevant here by claiming that the UK played some kind of role in behind-the-scenes negotiations. Really? I'm not sure exactly what that role would have been, because I think the UK has become increasingly irrelevant in going down the road of recognising the Palestinian state against the advice and wishes of the Trump administration. Well, Donald Trump has gone in there and has actually brought both sides together, has grabbed Netanyahu by the collar and said, look, you've got to sort this out. You can't continue to be at war with the world. And Netanyahu obviously realises that the US and Donald Trump are his biggest backers. He's got to listen to them. So he has signed up to the deal, however damaging that may ultimately be to his own premiership and that coalition government in Israel. But he signed up to that deal. It is being ratified now as we speak, Martin. And Hamas, well, they've agreed to it as well. And let's see, when we get into the more difficult phases, how this deal stands up. But I've got to say, people in that region, and you're right to point out, Martin, the celebrations that have been taking place, not just in Israel, but in Gaza as well. Both sides of this horrific war, both celebrating, and celebrating, of course, one man, Donald Trump, and the pivotal role that he has played in bringing the sides together.
Mark White, it's been a truly astonishing political power play we've seen just unravel before our eyes in this past few hours. Donald Trump will be live at 4 p.m, will be across to the White House. And I wonder if the culture war in Britain will fall silent. Will the pro-Palestine mob finally put down their arms? I suspect probably they won't. Mark White will speak to you later in the show. Superb as ever. Thank you very much. Well, let's now speak with the Honorary President of the Conservative Friends of Israel, Lord Stuart Polak. Lord Polak, welcome to the show. I wanted to get your take, if I could, initially on this truly historic breakthrough about peace between Israel and Gaza.
So, thank you. I'm here in Jerusalem, actually. In fact, I'm in the hotel that I was in on October the 7th, 2023.
Wow.
It just so happens, and so the juxtaposition of all of that is really interesting. It's a really, really important day. And I've spent the last 24 hours with a young man, Yaakov Bobot. Yaakov Bobot's brother, Elkanah, is one of the so-called living 20, one of the 20 hostages that is living, and I've been sitting with him over the last 24 hours. In fact, Elkanah Bobot was adopted by my colleague Lord Lee Synagogue in Westminster Synagogue. They adopted him as a hostage and tried to help the family. What was striking is that he has spent the last 24 hours saying to me, "Thank God for Donald Trump." And I listened a few moments ago to the press conference of the Prime Minister in India. And as your colleague just said, when he turned around and said, "We have played our part behind the scenes," that is code for we didn't do anything. We were just not at the table. And I was also a bit shocked and surprised when he was asked the question, should President Trump be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize? He wouldn't answer it. I will. Absolutely. Because what he's done here is when everybody else was just playing around, not doing anything serious, and certainly with the British over the last year since the Labour Party came to office, they have become irrelevant here certainly in Jerusalem and elsewhere. And I just hope that we will have learnt from that and that we will actually get involved and start helping in the way that the Prime Minister suggested we might.
Lord Polak, it will be truly incredible to see those hostages released. I can only imagine how your friend there, Yaakov Bohot, must be anticipating the moment perhaps he thought would never come. It would be truly historic.
But it's until it's over the line, until he touches his brother,
of course,
it's not going to be. And then the other hostage that has a British connection, Avi Natan's mother, who's been in London a lot, she's British, and we've been in touch for a long period. Here's again, she celebrated last week the birth of a grandson from another brother. And I just don't know how these people have been able to function. On the one hand, having a new grandson and the celebration of all of that, and yet a son who for the last 2 years has been held hostage in some tunnels in Gaza. But I just want to return, I just hope the British government now gets involved properly. The minute the government took over from the Conservatives a year ago, they did three things immediately. They decided to refund UNRWA when it was quite clear at that time UNRWA was just funding Hamas. And the Conservative stopped it. Labour immediately, within a week of being in government, refunded UNRWA. They changed the position on ICC, which the Conservative had questioned, and then they did an arms embargo. They're supporting so-called a friendly country, an ally, and they do some sort of arms embargo on Israel when they're fighting the terrorists, not fighting the Gazans, but fighting Hamas, who are terrorists. And then, of course, we had this, whilst Arab countries, led by President Trump, were creating the conditions for today. This historic moment. What was UK doing? As you said earlier on, UK was recognising a fictional state of Palestine, which were the only congratulations Britain got was from Hamas. It said it all. So I really want Britain to get involved, get involved to create a peace and prosperity in the whole region, which actually Israel has created over the last year. Look at Lebanon, look at Syria, look at Iran.
Lord Polak, could I please interject briefly, because I'm really keen to get your take on what's still going on the streets of the United Kingdom. The campaign against anti-Semitism are holding a vigil tonight at 7 p.m. at the end of Downing Street. We're expecting a pro-Palestine counter-protest even today, even 1 week on from the synagogue killing in Manchester. Do you think that the pro-Palestine mob want peace? Do you think they'll lay down their arms of protest, or is this going to carry on? Do they want something else? It's not about peace in Gaza. It's about war and hatred against Jews.
Oh, well, you put it perfectly. Sadly, I don't think all, but the many people. I think I refer you to Matthew Said's piece the other day in the Times, where he spoke to people on these so-called pro-Palestine marches, which are not necessarily just pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas and anti-Israel. I think the time has come. The time has come to look at this a bit more carefully, actually to stop them. I'll just give you one anecdote of a few months ago when these things were going on every week. A friend of mine was coming on a Eurostar train from Paris to London. And he saw a whole group of people who were coming to demonstrate in London against or pro-Hamas and so on, because they weren't allowed to do it in France. We in Britain have got it wrong, and I hope that we now realise, and when we saw the sad, terrible, tragic news on Yom Kippur last week, that now is the time to look at this properly and try to bring peace to our streets in the UK.
I think many people will concur with that message. Thank you so much for joining us on this historic day. Lord Stuart Polak there, live from Jerusalem, in the same hotel you were on that fateful day. Incredible coincidence, 2 years and 2 days ago. Thank you for your time, an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Well, a complete change of tone now. It's time for our latest Great British giveaway, and it's your chance to win a brand new four-berth motorhome worth over £74,000, plus a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash, and here's how you could win it.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, despite growing public backlash, including a 2.8 million strong petition, Keir Starmer wants to expand the use of digital IDs before they are even introduced. And also next, the Pink Ladies protest group clashed with a pro-Palestine activist during a London migrant protest last night. I'll be joined by the journalist who was there and filmed it on the front line. This is GB News, Business News Channel.
GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Got some breaking news for you now, and it's this. The Metropolitan Police have said that the former Radio 1 DJ Tim Westwood, aged 68, has been charged with sexual offences against 7 women, including 4 counts of rape that took place between 1983 and 2016. Just to quickly repeat that, the Metropolitan Police have said that the former Radio 1 DJ Tim Westwood has been charged with sexual offences against 7 women, including 4 counts of rape, allegedly taking place between 1983 and 2016. More on that later in the show, but for now, let's move on, because an all-female anti-illegal immigration group known as the Pink Ladies, they clashed with protesters yesterday evening after Tower Hamlets Council started a debate to prescribe Raise the Colours and other groups as far-right. Well, both sides clashed outside Tower Hamlets Town Hall, as you can see now, pictures on your screen, and that's in Whitechapel in East London. And as you can see, there were heated exchanges between both sides. Well, one person who was there and filmed the footage on your screens right now was the journalist Jack Hadfield, who joins me in Westminster. Jack, welcome to the studio. Always a pleasure. It got a bit tasty on the streets yesterday. It was all about a meeting happening inside. Tower Hamlets Council, in their wisdom, decided it would be a good idea to declare these groups far right. What happened next?
Yes, so... When it was found out that this meeting was going to be, the proposal was going to be at the meeting, the Pink Ladies said that, well, yeah, we have to protest against this. We can't have ourselves being slandered, just for, looking out for the safety of women and girls on the Isle of Dogs. They're a local group there, and of course with the guys that from Epping as well. So they came out to protest, and of course Unison, who's the union, they put out a call to all their members saying, you've got to come down and counter-protest these guys, because they are far-right racists, and we want to stand against them. Again, who stands against a group that is primarily there to protect the safety of women and girls? It doesn't make any sense. So they, the two groups were then assembled outside the town hall. What's interesting in this case, Martin, there's often been counter-protesters from Stand Up to Racism, etc. These things, and usually the groups are kept very, very separate. What happened this time? The police repeatedly let members of the counter-protest come over to the side of the Pink Ladies, and there are lots of heated arguments and debates going on there. One between GB News contributor Adam Brooks and Sarah White over the Pink Ladies herself, going back and forth about, said, look, we want to protect the rights of women and girls. Then someone said, well, what about the rights of children in Palestine? So which had a massive sort of groan from the crowd, being like, well, what's the point of this? So it was a very weird one, where the fact that the police just didn't seem to be pushing these guys back at all.
And the reason we showed that footage without sound is because there was some pretty fruity language being exchanged. And let's be honest, it got a bit spicy down there. And the point being this, the Unison name-checked Tommy Robinson, who has no affiliation or official involvement with any of these groups. But, of course, that's the spectre they used to whip up the crowd. The crowd turned over. I think a lot of people will be concerned to hear that ordinary working-class mothers, daughters, friends of women who are concerned about safety are being officially, in a sense, not prescribed, but labelled by a council as far right. Now, I spoke with the Race of Colours organisation, and they're getting increasingly concerned that such labels could have consequences and perhaps further, in this case, endanger the safety of those women.
Well, you're right. I think really it does come down to, now this is a phrase that the Americans have been picking up, and Zia Youssef noted just a couple of weeks ago when it came to describing Nigel Farage as fascist, this is stochastic terrorism. By describing, your enemies as far-right, fascist, Nazis, etc., you put a target on their back, because they are the most evil people in existence in terms of Nazis, fascists, far-right, etc. And there's supposedly, our culture teaches there is no debate with these people. We supposedly went to war with them, but they aren't Nazis. The Pink Ladies aren't Nazis. Nobody here is really far right. But by painting these people with these colours, then that whips up, certainly does whip up anger and hatred, and hopefully not yet violence.
Yeah, and Tower Hamlets Council, that's run by the Aspire Party, they're a group of independents. They claim it was because they've received complaints from locals about the safety of individuals. That's why they raised this motion, which I believe the motion was passed. So they said that officially they do think these groups are now officially far right. Incredible times to be alive. Jack Hadfield, thank you for documenting it once again. Thanks for coming in. I got to buzz off to a wedding. Go and have a great time. Thanks for your time today. There's more still to come to now and 4 o'clock, including, despite growing public backlash, including a 2.8 million strong petition, Keir Starmer wants to expand the use of digital IDs. Who said they're not COVID passports in disguise? More on this next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Business News Channel.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in. It's going to dominate our weather, not just through the rest of today, but through the next few days. It's not entirely sunny. It's a fairly cloudy high pressure bringing in this Atlantic air. But there are breaks in the cloud, and certainly southern parts of the UK and the far northeast benefiting from cloud breaks as we go through the evening and overnight. It's where we've got those cloud breaks that temperatures fall into the single figures. Otherwise, for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We're going to see further outbreaks of light rain and drizzle for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland and northwest England, northwest Wales as well. Some of that spilling into the Midlands. A mild night where we've got the cloud. Where we haven't got the cloud, single figure temperatures at the break of dawn, and a few mist and fog patches for the southwest of England. Eastern Scotland, I think, a bit more of a breeze here, so less cool first thing. But certainly plenty of sunshine for eastern parts of Aberdeenshire into Fife, for example, Edinburgh. Western Scotland still seeing a lot of cloud, Northern Ireland likewise. It's across Wales, the Midlands and central southern England where the thickest cloud will be. That's where we'll see some spots of rain and drizzle during the morning. That will tend to fizzle away as the day progresses. Any mist and fog in the southwest will lift as well. And then actually it does turn a little brighter. The cloud lifts and breaks, particularly for North Wales, Northern England, much of Scotland. A brighter day to come here compared with Thursday. And temperatures are responding well, 17, 18 Celsius where we get some sunshine. I think where we've got the thicker cloud and a stronger wind in the far north and northwest, 13 or 14 degrees. But it's a fine end to Friday for many, a bit more cloud there across southern areas compared with Thursday, but clearer spells further north. And it's similar as we go into the weekend. That high pressure continues to dominate. I think a little more sunshine expected through Saturday and Sunday, but not for everyone.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Persistent congestion affects roads this afternoon. On the M5 northbound between junction 6 and 5 in Worcestershire, a collision has closed 2 lanes, causing 50-minute delays. Gloucestershire's M5 between junction 12 and 11A has a load spillage, reducing traffic to 1 lane. The M48 imposes a 7.5-tonne weight restriction. Essex's A12 northbound between junction 23 and 24 is severely disrupted due to a vehicle fire, with all lanes closed. And on the trains, expect disruptions on cross-country services between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central. And northern buses are replacing trains between Corkickle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Well, good day. Time is 3:35 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Prime Minister may be in India, but the backlash from the digital ID announcement continues to rumble on British streets. So Keir Starmer is set to hold so-called digital ID engagement sessions, which aims to persuade unhappy Labour MPs that the digital ID is, after all, a good idea. Now, as the PM tried to get ahead of any potential rebellion, he's trying to court his own rebels. However, will this work? Can anything be done to persuade people that digital ID is the right thing to do? Let's now speak with the political editor at HuffPost UK, Kevin Schofield, who got the scoop on this growing rebellion within the Labour Party. Kevin, always a pleasure to have your company. Well, we know that 2.8 million people hate the idea of a digital ID. That's how many signed the petition against it, and rising. And yet, the latest rebellion, the latest revolt is within the Labour Party's own ranks. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I was told a couple of days ago that Number 10 were holding online post-conference Zoom call effectively with Labour MPs just to update them on where things are with the party and with the government, with Number 10. And they were told that there would be meetings with Number 10 officials, government ministers, to basically explain to them what digital ID cards are all about, how they would work, what the thinking behind it is. And a couple of the MPs who were on this call were basically just sort of tearing their hair out, messaged me to say they're planning these meetings to try and win us round. It's not going to work. If anything, it's going to harden opposition to it. Now, I spoke to another Labour MP who wasn't on the call, but he said, basically, he described it as Number 10 having a reverse Midas touch. He said that if Number 10 support it, then that makes it less likely that it's going to happen. He thinks that this has probably set it back, the whole issue of ID cards, set it back by 5 years, simply because Number 10 are attached to it. We've seen polling as well, which showed that support for ID cards plummeted after Keir Starmer backed it. So yeah, there's no doubt that it's in quite a lot of trouble, I think.
Kevin, there's so many points to pick apart there. Let's start with the notion. If you look at the map, that petition map of where people have been signing this petition, a lot of the people are in Labour seats. A lot of them are in Labour seats with relatively slim margins. A lot of the seats are where Reform are nibbling at their heels. And this is another wheelie bin fire for those local parliamentarians, on top of the winter fuel allowance, on top of the farming backlash, you name it. It's something else they've got to deal with on the doorstep. And it's going to be a hard sell for them.
It is, Martin. I mean, you mentioned there's 2.8 million people have signed that petition. Now, that, put in some kind of context, that is a lot of people signing a petition on the Parliament website. You know, that is, I think that shows how much public opposition potentially there is out there. And a lot of Labour MPs are saying, why are we doing this? It wasn't in the manifesto. They don't understand why Keir Starmer is suddenly all guns blazing for it. And there's also some dubiety as to what the official reason for it was. If you remember, when Keir Starmer announced it, he said it was to crack down on illegal immigration. It means that if you want to start a job, you must have one of these cards. So if you're here illegally, then you won't have the card, therefore you can't work, and that will reduce the so-called pull factors, bringing people here on small boats, for instance. But since then, and I think Keir Starmer's talked about this on his trip to India, they've started saying, well, there's other reasons for it as well. It'll make other bits of public service, accessing public services more easy. And people are saying, well, hang on a minute, what is the reason behind it? You said it was this, now you're saying it's that. What, it's all a bit muddled and confused, and you're right, it's a difficult one for Labour MPs to try and sell on the doorstep when they're talking to voters.
One sentence that leapt out, and I think will send a chill down a lot of people's spines from Sir Keir Starmer earlier on today. He said this: on the one hand, digital ID will be mandatory for work, but I think it'd be a good passport. Now, he was talking about a good passport in terms of accessing public services, such as childcare and benefits. But Kevin Schofield, a lot of people have long memories. They remember COVID passports. They remember the threat of digital ID being used to control their access to gyms, to pubs, to churches, to anything the government decided they weren't allowed to go and attend. And I put it to you, a stern backer of that at the time was Sir Keir Starmer. And it's back to your point there about the reverse Midas touch. Are people, especially, do you believe, suspicious about this idea precisely because it's Sir Keir Starmer's idea?
I think that's part of it. I mean, there's no doubt. I think it was a more in common opinion poll. Now, from memory, I think support for ID cards was round about in the mid-50s before it was announced. Once it was announced, it was down into the low 30s within days, which I think shows, as I said earlier, this reverse Midas touch that the Labour MP described to me. I think it's tied in with the Prime Minister's own personal popularity or lack of popularity. If his name is attached to something, then I think voters instantly become quite sceptical about it. And now that he is so closely tied to digital ID, a lot of people are saying, well, do we really need this? What is the thinking behind it? And again, it comes back to that point. It was sold in one way, and now the explanation seems to have changed. And there's an awful lot of sceptical Labour MPs added into the fact that the Conservatives, Reform, the Lib Dems, the SNP, there's a huge cross-party block there, all against it. And I think you might have some difficulty trying to get it through Parliament.
Kevin Schofield, I think we're exactly right. This looks like the definition of mission creep into areas of social liberty that nobody ever voted for this. Kevin Schofield, a great scoop. Thanks for coming on the show today to talk to us. Always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you, Kevin Schofield. Now, the Prime Minister's trade trip to India is wrapping up, and our political correspondent Catherine Forster has all of the latest.
The Prime Minister here in Mumbai at the end of this two-day trade delegation, the biggest for at least a decade. They feel it's gone brilliantly. Lots of investment. We've had announcements on Bollywood films being made in the UK, British universities putting satellites out. India, lots of jobs, the Prime Minister would say, that are coming Britain's way as a result of the free trade deal, which was signed back in July. But quite difficult questions for the Prime Minister at the press conference. Yes, of course, he praised President Trump with the news that there is likely to be peace in Gaza and Israel going forward. Of course, Trump absolutely key in that. He said that it would not have happened without him. He didn't seem too bothered about getting into the details of who might or might not lead in Gaza going forward when he was asked about Tony Blair. He said that he had discussed the issue of India buying lots and lots of Russian oil with Prime Minister Modi. be here. Let's see if there's any shift going forward. He knocked back suggestions that the government had been involved in the Chinese spy case being dropped. He said that there was no involvement from any government ministers. And I asked him how it felt to be surrounded by pictures of himself. There's thousands of them here. He's very popular here, but very unpopular at home. I mean, digital ID had support of the majority of the population right up until the point that he announced it, and a lot of people have now had second thoughts. And I asked him if he had the reverse Midas touch. He was keen to say that they think digital ID is a benefit, that it's going to make our lives fundamentally easier, but they're clearly going to have to sell it much better than they have, given that 2.5 million people at the moment have signed a petition against it.
Great report there, Catherine Forster. Keir Starmer over in India. Meanwhile, digital ID is not currying much favour on British streets. Now, coming up at 4 p.m. today, we'll be live from the White House as Donald Trump, who Israel say will travel now to the country on Sunday to Israel. Trump will host a cabinet meeting. It's going to be simply unmissable. Don't go anywhere. If you're in search of some holiday sun, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend, with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
A day for us today, Penny.
Yeah.
With losing our friend, Mr. John Stapleton, totally unexpectedly. I mean, of course, we knew he was ill.
Yes,
but
we didn't know he was
We
ill.
didn't know he was about to die.
Well, no. When he came in, we came in to the studio, and the three of us kind of were reunited.
Just a month ago.
Just a month ago, exactly. And yesterday, the lovely thing was that I had so many texts from people who you'd recognise as well from GMTV days, other people as well. Everybody saying what a gent he was and how kind and, you know, from my point of view, the reason he stayed a friend, you know, obviously, you know, you have these, you call them screen husbands, screen wives, but the reason he stayed a friend was because he was genuinely funny. He made me laugh a lot, all the time. And in fact, I just recently did a little podcast with him. We were talking about things that he hated and everything, and he was talking about he hated people driving around with cars with their windows open and really loud music.
Yeah.
And he was just going, you know, he said, I just shout at them, can you turn it up a bit? There's somebody in Australia who can't quite hear the words. So you never expect it, you never want it. The people you love, you want to live forever. That's it.
That's very well said, yeah. I obviously was very friendly. He was, when we say a gentleman, he was gentle. He was a gentle soul. And then he became very nasty. It was very difficult to like and get on with. It was just you know, when Manchester United started to decline in terms of superiority, and he became so... He became so arrogant.
No, he really?
Oh, he was unbearable.
He so didn't.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Reform councillors in Lancashire have called for the National Inquiry into rape gangs to conduct an investigation in the county. Council leaders claim that there's never been a proper investigation into the county's grooming network, with victims believing that there's been missed opportunities to tackle abuse and receive their justice. Well, let's now speak with GB News' North West reporter, and that is Sophie Reaper. Sophie Reaper, there's a lot of people saying that they never received what they were due up there. They never got justice, and now the Reform Council are launching an inquiry. Tell us more.
Well, Martin, that was one of the hot topics on the agenda here today, where Lancashire's Reform branch held a press conference at AFC Fylde Stadium. Now, one of the speakers was the deputy leader of the county council here in Lancashire, Simon Evans, and he described a new age of politics and Reform's part in that. He said Reform, they're not left-wing, they're not right-wing, they're not even central. He said they are a new political beast. He said we are from the bottom and we are coming for those at the top. Now, you're right in saying that, of course, grooming gangs was one of the key issues on the agenda today. Reform setting out their policies both now and for the future. Of course, we're approaching a critical few years in British politics, both at a local and a national level. But going back to grooming gangs, the lead on that today was Councillor Maria Jones. She is Reform's Lancashire County Council's champion in combating sexual violence and against women and girls. And she spoke about change, how Reform is now here to listen to those survivors and victims. She was really rather powerful, Martin. So let's just take a listen of what she had to say.
But let me be clear. Silence is what allowed these criminals to operate. Silence is what allowed these crimes to flourish. Silence is what allowed these young girls to suffer.
Well, Maria mentioned those young girls there, and just one of the victims of grooming gangs is a lady called Ellie Reynolds. Now, she in particular was a victim of the Barrow grooming gang scandal, and she spoke here at the press conference today very bravely and very candidly. I actually had the opportunity to speak to her privately, one-on-one, after the press conference, and she told me about how the grooming and the abuse against her all began.
It didn't start like your typical grooming scandal. It was literally through a former partner at the time. His cousin was with what ended up to be my main abuser. I was subjected to all sorts through that 5 years: human trafficking, forced criminality, child sexual exploitation. I was plied with drugs. I was held captive. It was obviously awful. Coming out of it, though, I think I'm an advocate because of what I've been through and how I've seen that other people can be so damaged off it that if somebody doesn't take the stand and talk for what's right, we're never going to be able to solve the problem.
Now, something crucial that was announced here by Reform today, led by Councillor Maria Jones, is Safe Spaces Lancashire. And she explained what that is a platform for victims, for survivors, for the loved ones of those who have experienced grooming gangs. It's a place for them to go where, she said, they would not be judged, where they will be heard, and where they will continue to receive the support they need across the board, that they won't be forgotten about, that they won't be held to anything but as a victim, and that they will continue to receive the support from the Reform Party.
Superb report there from Lancashire. Thank you very much, Sophie Reaper. And just to remind you, in the next hour, we will have Councillor Maria Jones on the channel. And I'm just blown away by the bravery of Addie Reynolds there. Thank you very much, Sophie Reaper, as ever. Excellent. Now, coming up, don't go anywhere. Donald Trump will be hosting a cabinet meeting live from the White House. Of course, this is on the eve of a ceasefire in the Middle East. Donald Trump to travel to Jerusalem on Sunday. The hostages we hear to be released in full on Monday. History in the making will be live at the White House next. Don't go anywhere. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in. It's going to dominate our weather not just through the rest of today but through the next few days. It's not entirely sunny, it's a fairly cloudy high pressure bringing in this Atlantic air. But there are breaks in the cloud and certainly southern parts of the UK and the far northeast benefiting from cloud breaks as we go through the evening and overnight. It's where we've got those cloud breaks that temperatures fall into the single figures. Otherwise, for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We're going to see further outbreaks of light rain and drizzle for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland and northwest England, northwest Wales as well. Some of that spilling into the Midlands. A mild night where we've got the cloud. Where we haven't got the cloud, single-figure temperatures at the break of dawn and a few mist and fog patches for the southwest of England. Eastern Scotland, I think, a bit more of a breeze here, so less cool first thing. But certainly plenty of sunshine for eastern parts of Aberdeenshire into Fife, for example, Edinburgh. Western Scotland still seeing a lot of cloud, Northern Ireland likewise. It's across Wales, the Midlands and central southern England where the thickest cloud will be. That's where we'll see some spots of rain and drizzle during the morning. That will tend to fizzle away as the day progresses. Any mist and fog in the southwest will lift as well. And then actually it does turn a little brighter. The cloud lifts and breaks, particularly for North Wales, Northern England, much of Scotland. A brighter day to come here compared with Thursday. And temperatures are responding well, 17, 18 Celsius where we get some sunshine. I think where we've got the thicker cloud and a stronger wind in the far north and northwest, 13 or 14 degrees. But it's a fine end to Friday for many, a bit more cloud there across southern areas compared with Thursday, but clearer spells further north, and it's similar as we go into the weekend. That high pressure continues to dominate. I think a little more sunshine expected through Saturday and Sunday, but not for everyone.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Drivers should be cautious on the A9000 Forth Road Bridge due to high winds impacting road conditions. Over on the M48, there is a 7.5-ton weight restriction for heavy goods vehicles until further notice. In the city of Plymouth, the westbound A38 has 2 of 3 lanes closed due to an accident involving an overturned vehicle between the junctions with the A3121 and the A374. Expect a 15-minute delay. On the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central, and northern buses are replacing trains between Corkicle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's show. After 2 years and 2 days of brutal conflict, the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is finally due to begin tonight. With all 20 remaining Israeli hostages set to be released on Monday, might we finally see peace in the Middle East? We'll be live from the White House in a short moment's time on this truly historic day, because it's all happening in the States. Very shortly, we'll be live from the White House as Donald Trump, who Israel say will now travel to Jerusalem on Sunday, hosts a crucial cabinet meeting that is expected to shed more light on this peace deal. And might Donald Trump finally win the Nobel Peace Prize that he believes he richly deserves? And as the guns fall silent in Gaza, will the pro-Palestine marchers on British streets finally call time? Well, ahead of their own Downing Street protest at 7 p.m. this evening, I'll be joined by the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism to ask them, does the Palestine mob want peace, or will their culture war simply rage on? An after a petition to stop Sir Keir Starmer's digital ID plans tops 2.8 million, the embattled PM now faces a fresh revolt from his own MPs. And one disgruntled Labour MP has blasted Sir Keir's reverse Midas touch, claiming the plan has been tainted for another 5 years. Might this be Keir Starmer's poll tax moment? That's all coming up in your next hour. History in the making today as the peace deal between Israel and Gaza seemingly within the grasp of the world. In a short moment's time, we'll be live from the White House as Donald Trump gives a hugely anticipated cabinet office meeting. Surely we'll learn more information about this peace deal as Donald Trump has announced he will travel to Jerusalem on Sunday ahead of those hostages being released in full on Monday. A truly historic day. We'll be live from the White House. Please stick with us and get in touch the usual way, gbnews.com/you'll say. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Tatiana Sanchez.
The top stories: Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners freed. Humanitarian aid entered Gaza and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. The IDF says it's already preparing to adjust deployment lines ahead of the key cabinet meeting in Jerusalem today. If ministers sign off, a 72-hour countdown begins for the hostages to be freed, with President Trump predicting all 20 surviving captives will be home by Monday. He spoke to Fox News just hours after the deal was agreed.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
The Prime Minister has personally thanked US President Donald Trump for his role in the plan to end the fighting in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the first phase of a Gaza peace plan would not have happened without President Trump's leadership.
And I will take this opportunity to put on record my thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations. It is a relief to the world, and I think particularly of the hostages who've been held a very long time and their families, and to all the civilians in Gaza who've been so affected by this conflict. And so it does now need to be implemented. And as for the next stages, we, the UK, stand ready to work with others on implementing the next stages.
Sir Keir Starmer has been given a bold welcome in India, with streets in Mumbai lined with thousands of photos of him and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On his first visit to the country, he's led a record delegation of more than 100 UK business, university and cultural leaders on a two-day trade mission. He's been unveiling new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. The Prime Minister told GB News in his speech today also that digital IDs are now about accessing your own money.
And I will take this opportunity to put on record my thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations. It is a relief to the world. And I think particularly of the hostages who've been held a very long time and their families, and to all the civilians in Gaza who've been so affected by the conflict. And so it does now need to be implemented. And as for the next stages, we, the UK, stand ready to work with others on implementing the next stages.
Millions of households in England face even higher water bills after 5 major suppliers won an appeal to the UK's competition regulator. Anglian, Northumbrian, Southern, Wessex and South East Water can now raise bills by an extra 3% on top of Ofwat's approved increases. The watchdog says it's to help cover rising borrowing costs, but insists most of the company's requests were largely unjustified. It means customers will shoulder part of the £550 million in extra revenue granted to the firms. Thames Water's separate appeal has been delayed as it works on a rescue deal. And ex-BBC Radio 1 DJ Tim Westwood has been charged with 4 counts of rape, the Metropolitan Police says. The 68-year-old has also been charged with 9 counts of indecent assault and 2 counts of sexual assault. Westwood is due to appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 11th of November. The charges relate to 7 different women, the force has said.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of the markets. The pound will buy you $1.3367 and €1.1505. The price of gold is £3,016.91 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,504 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Thank you, Tatiana. Now, Donald Trump is expected to land in Jerusalem on Sunday, and according to Israel, the US president is expected to fly there after the Gaza peace deal is secured. Now, this comes, of course, as the Israeli cabinet votes on a deal that would bring a ceasefire and the release of all surviving 20 hostages and the bodies, we believe, of 28 who haven't made it within days. Well, let's speak now with GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, welcome back to the show. Of course, now all eyes on the White House. A cabinet meeting is expected imminently. Donald Trump surely will be grandstanding at this in what many might say is his biggest achievement to date.
Surely not, Donald. A very modest individual. I'm sure he won't be playing up his part in it at all. No, listen, he, I think, can rightly claim the credit for this. He has been pushing and pushing both sides, and particularly Benjamin Netanyahu in recent months, to get a deal accepted now. As he said publicly to Fox News, he said to Benjamin Netanyahu that you cannot keep fighting the world, alluding to the fact that really, apart from America, the world was increasingly against Israel by 2 years of devastating scenes playing out in Gaza. I think Israel always knew that it had a finite time that it could prosecute the war against Hamas. And actually, I think it's probably got a lot longer than it was expecting on the world stage. It's only recently that key allies like the UK and other European countries have decided to very publicly start criticising Israel, and then very controversially with the UK and some other countries recognising the Palestinian statehood claim. So, of course, I think given all of that, President Trump has been very keen for Benjamin Netanyahu to finally get his cabinet to agree to this deal and start to get the return of the hostages and move towards a more negotiated settlement. It's not going to be easy at all, Martin. It's a 20-step process, and as you know, counterintuitive as it sounds, this first step of the ceasefire and the release of the hostages is probably the easier part. It's further down the road when we start deciding on what role, if any, Hamas can play in any new administration, the disarmament of Hamas, how far Israel, in terms of the IDF, will pull out of Gaza. These are going to be very tricky areas of negotiation going forward.
Mark White, what we can say for certain is that Donald Trump will have cemented his position in history as an ally of Israel. And we cannot say the same about many other countries around the world. Look at the countries that have recognised the state of Palestine and perhaps emboldened Hamas in the process. Australia, Canada, Ireland, France, and, of course, our very own Sir Keir Starmer. I'm going to use the polite phrase here, a spare part at the wedding of this peace deal today in India, trying to sort of, I don't know, drum up Britain's involvement. Many people believe, Mark White, that Britain has simply been on the wrong side of history here.
Yeah, I think it was a lesson in how to try to portray yourself as still remaining relevant in this process, Martin. But whatever it was that the UK has been doing behind the scenes can only have been a very small bit part, I think. I think they are increasingly irrelevant in what is playing out now between Israel and Gaza. Israel, I think, is increasingly distrusting of the Labour government and, of course, as you mentioned, a number of other governments there for going out as they have done and recognising the Palestinian state, of course, in the wake of these horrific attacks that took place 2 years ago on October the 7th. Israel has seen that as rewarding the most horrific act of terrorism. But we are where we are. As I say, Donald Trump is the one absolutely that's been pushing this process in a way that no other leader of any country has done since he got into office. And it looks, fingers crossed, everybody hoping that it looks promising, that it's going in the right direction. But we've seen it so many times in the Middle East. You can take one step forward, 2 steps back. So it's to be hoped that they can keep this on course, that they can, now that Donald Trump has managed to secure, and I think this is key, Martin, that Donald Trump has managed to secure a number of Muslim countries and Arab nations that border Israel to come on board and put their support full square behind this deal. That, I think, will make the difference. They seem willing now to get involved in trying to shape a sort of governmental structure for Gaza that will not involve, in any sort of meaningful way anyway, Hamas, that can then maybe move forward in this more constructive way and look towards a more peaceful and constructive future in which they can look at the reconstruction of Gaza. There's a great deal, I think, of support around the world for the people of Gaza. There will be no shortage of money going in there to help with the redevelopment, but they need a sort of responsible administration in place that's not going to squirrel that money away to build hundreds of miles of terror tunnels and prepare for another war with Israel, but some governmental structure that's going to work towards the good of the people of Gaza.
Mark White, an excellent summary as ever. We're days away potentially from an epoch change in peace in the Middle East. Mark White, thank you very much for joining us as ever. Well, let's now speak with GB News presenter Ben Leo, who joins us live from Washington, D.C. Ben Leo, you are there poised on the sideline of history. Donald Trump due to address the nation, the world, at this cabinet meeting at 4 p.m. suddenly become much more significant than a regular, ordinary business meeting. What's the mood in D.C., Ben Leo? The incredible scenes when you went to New York and we saw the pro-Palestine mob, a feverish, almost hatred of Israel. Do you think they'll lay down their guns?
Yeah, that was an interesting experience, in New York a couple of evenings ago. The mood here in DC, Mark White summed it up excellently, Martin. Great report from Mark there. The mood here in DC is hopeful, optimistic. As Mark said, it is only the first stages, but you saw the scenes, the pictures and the videos from Gaza and Israel this morning. Palestinians celebrating, Israelis celebrating, and I've been speaking to some Jewish contingent here in DC this morning who are also overjoyed that we could be very, very close to the release of those hostages. Israel, the war cabinet, are meeting as we speak right now, and if they sign off this deal, we could see a ceasefire within 24 hours, and indeed the hostages released by Monday, which, if you think they've been in captivity in torrid, horrendous conditions, physically, psychologically, for more than 2 years now. And this could be, Martin and viewers and listeners, one of the crown jewel policy decisions and triumphs of President Trump's tenure so far. I'd argue over his entire political life since 2016. Peace in the Middle East was one of the main campaign rally cries from President Trump before he was elected, or at least won the election in November last year. And he calls himself, doesn't he, the peace president. He claims he's ended 6 or 7 wars. And the big question now is, and I don't know if viewers would agree with this, does he deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? The award is being dished out tomorrow. The winner will be announced in Norway. You could argue this has come maybe just at the right time. President Trump has long said he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. He's not sure whether he'd ever win it. But the argument here in DC amongst many Democrats we speak to, including on The Late Show Live, which of course broadcasts from midnight every weekday and weekend on GB News, is that Donald Trump doesn't deserve it. But I cannot see an argument, Martin. I can't see an argument or a pushback if this deal is secured, if a ceasefire is delivered within 24 hours, if the hostages are released. Why shouldn't he deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? That at least is the argument from the Trump cabinet here in the White House. The cabinet, as you said, Martin, are meeting now. We're expecting to hear imminently from the president, who will comment on the Israel-Gaza situation. And as you've said at the top of the hour as well, the president will travel to Jerusalem this Sunday. Asked if he would visit Gaza, he said, maybe I might just do that.
Interesting, Ben, Leo. You know, a lot of people, well, Trump himself said only woke people win the Nobel Peace Prize, and I certainly think that the judging panel might fall into the wokerati bracket, as it were. But I'm fascinated to see over your side of the pond, over our side of the pond, even people who don't like Donald Trump are going, do you know what? The guy's played a blinder here. But are you still saying, even despite this historic moment, Trump derangement syndrome is still blazing that side of the Atlantic?
Yeah, look, TDS is a thing. It exists. There was a woman at an Antifa roundtable cabinet meeting with President Trump here yesterday. It was a meeting about far-left terrorism, domestic terrorism. And one of the contributors, it was quite a funny moment. She said in the meeting to President Trump, "Mr. President, I have to admit, I suffered from Trump derangement syndrome for many, many years. It made me a miserable person. I've now found the light. I've seen the light. I'm a happier person. I think I'm even more attractive as a result." And President Trump laughed and said, "You are very attractive." So TDS is a real thing. And I just wonder, Martin, if people can come to accept that he has achieved something very, very special here, President Trump, will we see an end to the likes of the scenes that I attended in New York City a few evenings ago? The kind of scenes we see in London week in, week out, these pro-Palestine protests, the Palestine Action Support protests. Surely, if President Trump delivers this deal, we won't need any more of those protests, any more of those rotten scenes on the streets of America and the United States, because the killing will stop, civilians and children will stop being killed, and peace is on the way to being delivered. Or, as I suggested during the week, are the marches, are the rallies not about that at all? Is it just a bit of good old-fashioned anti-Jew bashing, Martin?
I think you've answered your own question, Ben Leo. Very, very adeptly. We're having a similar march tonight in London at the same time there's a campaign march by the Anti-Semitism Brigade. Thank you, Ben Leo, there from DC. We'll cross back to you live later in the show. Superb as ever. Let's bring in my next guest now. I'm joined by the human rights lawyer, Mahtab Aziz. Welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company, Mr. Aziz. Are you also delighted that Donald Trump seems to have brought peace in the Middle East a little step nearer?
Well, we have to remember that this is the same President Trump who, in fact, said that he was happy for Netanyahu to finish the job. Secondly, he, after coming into power, sold $12 billion worth of arms to Israel so they can carry on their wiping out of Gaza and its people. So I don't agree with that at all.
So you're not at all happy that we might be approaching an end to a brutal 2-year and 2-day war? You're not at all happy that we might be seeing the release of people who've been imprisoned and held hostage for all that time? You'd rather just bash Donald Trump today?
No, I would be very happy if that was the real and genuine reason and purpose behind this 20-point plan. I feel it may well be a Gaza Riviera plan through the back door.
But would you rather Gaza be ran by Hamas, or would you rather Gaza be ran by a democratically elected interim government, perhaps even ran by people like Tony Blair and Donald Trump? Or is this about something else for you?
Well, we have to remember that Hamas was, in fact, democratically elected. Let's not forget that. And secondly, to involve...
Was there any opposition to Hamas, or did they, I don't know, go missing?
Well, I mean, obviously that's all happened, and we want things to change. Everyone wants things to change. And to involve Tony Blair, who's probably the most discredited Middle Eastern politician there is, further smacks of genuine intentions are not there.
But you'd have to concur, for all of his faults, Tony Blair surely could do a better job of running Palestine than Hamas.
Well, I mean, he agreed to an illegal war. There were no weapons of mass destruction. He totally destroyed Iraq. I mean, do you want someone like that to take over Gaza? Surely not.
Well, you could argue Hamas have destroyed Gaza by invading Israel 2 years and 2 days ago. Can you find it in your soul, Mahtab Aziz? I'm going to give the opportunity now to say thank you, Donald Trump, for ending the war in Gaza.
I think that's, Martin, that's a bit premature. This is a 20-point plan, and it's in phases. So we can't really say that until we actually get to the end. It's like congratulating someone on winning the marathon when they haven't actually won it yet.
I concur, there is still work to do, but if the war stops, if we move towards a fairer outcome for people in Gaza, no longer living under a terrorist regime, if all of that happens and the hostages are released and that we can approach a peaceful future in the area, do you think, for example, Donald Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize?
I'm afraid not. A person who, concurred with a person who's a war criminal to later get the Nobel Peace Prize devalues the prize itself.
OK, well, I attempted. I did my very, very best there to find some of the milk of human kindness towards Donald Trump from you there. I'm afraid it simply doesn't exist. Human rights lawyer Mahtab Aziz, thanks for your company on the show, though. I really do appreciate your company. Thank you. Thanks. Now, very shortly, we'll be hearing from the US President Donald Trump live from the White House. He's set to host a cabinet meeting and we're guaranteed surely to learn more about its potentially historic peace deal that we are on the verge of sealing in the Middle East. We'll be live there next with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Well, good day. Time is 4:27. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, very shortly, the US President Donald Trump is set to host a historic cabinet meeting at the White House, of course, ahead of today's proposal for peace in the Middle East. And let's now speak with GB News' Homeland Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, as we anticipate Donald Trump to appear, he's fashionably late. This is normal. This is what he does. And I'm expecting there's going to be quite a lot of extra detail today, perhaps quite a lot of grandstanding, and potentially he might even nominate himself for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, I think he's entitled to big up himself if he does do that, because he's the one that's been making all the running on this. He's been, bringing the sides together, demanding that now they take seriously his peace proposal. He's had his teams out there, of course, working in the Middle East with associated countries around that region as well to try to drum up support for this peace plan. No one's saying it's going to be easy in the weeks and months ahead. It won't be. It may be bogged down. There may be disagreements. There'll definitely be disagreements in that part of the world, but they are confident if they stick to this 20-point plan that they can chart a much more considered and constructive way forward for Gaza. Where we are at the moment, of course, is the deal having been ratified by the Israeli cabinet. It's meeting at the moment. The ceasefire itself, we're told by an Israeli government spokesman, isn't expected to be immediate because remember that those IDF forces that are in areas of the Gaza Strip that they're going to withdraw from will need some time to do that. We're told that process should take no more than 24 hours, and then they expect that ceasefire to be implemented. So this time tomorrow, hopefully that will be the case. You're looking there at the skyline looking over from Israel into Gaza, and we've seen throughout today a number of plumes of smoke coming from buildings in Gaza because the IDF is still prosecuting the war. It's still going after the terrorist group Hamas, and they are warning members of the public in Gaza not to go back into these areas that they have been told to evacuate from, Martin, because it's not safe yet. Until the ceasefire is properly underway, then they will continue to prosecute that war against Hamas. So it's a bit longer that the people of Gaza will have to wait, but then hopefully it will go according to plan, and this time or thereabouts tomorrow they'll be able to start going back into these areas. And then the clock starts running, Martin, for Hamas to come up and deliver its side of this first phase of the peace deal to release those 48 hostages. Very sadly, 28 of them we know to have died. And 20 of them are still alive. So perhaps actually releasing those that are alive will be easier for Hamas to do than maybe some of those who've died, because the truth of it is that there will be the remains of some of the hostages probably buried under tons of rubble in the tunnel system under Gaza itself. So that might be a bit of a protracted process, but at least we seem confident that that's going to get underway within that 72-hour period. And that's why, of course, we're hearing that the US president is going to head to Israel for Sunday. I think it's Sunday into Monday when they expect the first of those hostages to be released, and there's no doubt that Donald Trump would want to be there for that, Martin.
As we await Donald Trump to appear at the White House, looking at those pictures there across the border, Mark White, I'm reminded of how long and how brutal this war has been. I covered this on Breakfast with Ann Diamond when it broke out. We could not believe the images of the paragliders going across the border and the Hamas troops going in and brutalising and massacring so many people at music festivals, in their own homes. And Mark White, you yourself had to take cover as bombs rained in when you were out there reporting, and now we could be in a position within days where this comes to an end and we'll see more of those astonishing videos, hopefully, of hostages being released and reunited with their families. And Mark White, it's impossible to overstate the diplomacy, the muscular diplomacy that Donald Trump has displayed here. There was never any boots on the ground. There was assistance, of course. War needs allies. But domestically in America, Donald Trump pledged not to start wars, but to end wars. And Mark White, he seems to have been good for his word in this instance.
Yeah, I mean, I think whatever people say about Donald Trump, this is not a president, despite, of course, backing up some of the tough rhetoric with the missile and drone attack on Iran. He is not a president that wants to see his country embroiled in war, and neither does he want to see the world embroiled in war. And he has been pushing relentlessly on multiple fronts to try to achieve peace in some very intractable wars. And of course, one of the biggest of all is what's happening in Ukraine at the moment. And he knows there's difficulties there, Martin. He's, arranged for Vladimir Putin to come to Alaska for that peace summit there, hoping that there would be some positive results for that, only for Russia to prevaricate again and not to actually come up with anything sustainable or substantial after that particular meeting. So I think Donald Trump will want to be assured that this process is underway before he gets onto Air Force One to head out to Israel in the coming days. You were mentioning there, as we showed the live shot, Martin, I think that may have been one of the locations that I was at Sderot, overlooking Gaza itself, and much of the landscape there effectively flattened now. And, we saw the Israeli helicopters and munitions going into Gaza, and it's been 2 years of that, but it was always going to be a difficult war for Israel to prosecute, and they knew that, because you've got Hamas, which is a terrorist organisation, but it's also the government in that area and also is of the people there. So how do you go after and prosecute a war when you have an enemy that hides right within the civilian infrastructure, as it has done in the hospitals and in the schools? And we've seen that. They've shown us ample evidence of the way in which Hamas would fire its rockets into Israel from these soft target civilian areas, knowing that Israel would respond to take out these launchers, and inevitably there would be civilian casualties.
Yeah, Mark White, it's been such a long war, so much to think back on. It could almost be within touching distance of being over as we await the President Donald Trump to address the nation and indeed the world. Until then, Mark White, thank you very much for joining us again on the show. Superb as ever. Yeah, still to come very, very shortly now. We will be hearing from US President Donald Trump, who is set to host a cabinet meeting live and direct from the White House. History is in the making, and we will be there live for you. But first, here's your latest news headlines, and it's Tatiana Sanchez.
The top stories. Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and some Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter into Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. Sir Keir Starmer has hailed the agreement as a moment of profound relief that will be felt around the world. If approved by Israel's cabinet this afternoon, a ceasefire could begin within hours. Keir Starmer has been in India meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi on what's being called a historic trade mission. He's unveiled new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by almost £5 billion a year. The Metropolitan Police says former Radio 1 DJ Tim Westwood has been charged with sexual offences against 7 women, including 4 counts of rape between 1983 and 2016. Those are the headlines. More in half an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in. It's going to dominate our weather, not just through the rest of today, but through the next few days. It's not entirely sunny. It's a fairly cloudy high pressure, bringing in this Atlantic air. But there are breaks in the cloud, and certainly southern parts of the UK and the far northeast benefiting from cloud breaks as we go through the evening and overnight. It's where we've got those cloud breaks that temperatures fall into the single figures. Otherwise, for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We're going to see further outbreaks of light rain and drizzle for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland and northwest England, northwest Wales as well. Some of that spilling into the Midlands. A mild night where we've got the cloud. Where we haven't got the cloud, single figure temperatures at the break of dawn, and a few mist and fog patches for the southwest of England. Eastern Scotland, I think, a bit more of a breeze here, so less cool first thing. But certainly plenty of sunshine for eastern parts of Aberdeenshire into Fife, for example, Edinburgh. Western Scotland still seeing a lot of cloud, Northern Ireland likewise. It's across Wales, the Midlands and central southern England where the thickest cloud will be. That's where we'll see some spots of rain and drizzle during the morning. That will tend to fizzle away as the day progresses. Any mist and fog in the southwest will lift as well. And then actually it does turn a little brighter. The cloud lifts and breaks, particularly for North Wales, Northern England, much of Scotland. A brighter day to come here compared with Thursday. And temperatures are responding well, 17, 18 Celsius where we get some sunshine, I think where we've got the thicker cloud, and a stronger wind in the far north and northwest, 13 or 14 degrees. But it's a fine end to Friday for many, a bit more cloud there across southern areas compared with Thursday, but clearer spells further north, and it's similar as we go into the weekend. That high pressure continues to dominate. I think a little more sunshine expected through Saturday and Sunday, but not for everyone.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. A broken down vehicle causes delays on the southbound A9 near Balhaldy services. Northbound congestion persists between the A4232 interchange and M4 junction 33. In Essex, the A12 northbound between junctions 23 and 24 is closed due to a vehicle fire. On the M3 westbound, a collision closes one lane between junctions 2 and 3. Further south, the A38 in Plymouth is blocked by an overturned vehicle. And on the trains, cross-country services between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central are disrupted, and northern buses replace trains between Corkicle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Let's cross now live to DC and speak with GB News presenter Ben Leo, live there outside the White House. Ben, of course, it's Donald Trump. He keeps the crowd waiting, but nobody is going to leave early before Rod Stewart performs. That's what this is. It's the anticipation of the moment, and we're expecting a huge announcement at this cabinet meeting, which would have been quite an ordinary humdrum moment until this historic peace deal now on the table.
Yes, Martin, it feels like we are on the precipice of history being made. President Trump was meant to start this cabinet meeting 40 minutes ago, 11 a.m. local time here in the United States. It's still not started yet, so many people online joking that maybe President Trump's getting a big lunch ready to celebrate, or even making some coffee ahead of any big announcement that may be pending. The serious answer may be, Martin, that they're waiting for the conclusion of an Israeli government meeting. The War Cabinet there are meeting this afternoon as we speak now and voting on this proposed peace deal, which would include, of course, if it does happen today, a ceasefire within 24 hours in Gaza, and then historically, to the overjoyment of hostages and their families, the release of around 20 hostages and 25 bodies of those who have died from Gaza by Monday. There's still a long way to go after this deal. The first phase of this deal is delivered. Many big questions, including whether Hamas will indeed lay down their arms, because they've previously refused to do that, saying that they'd only do so when a Palestinian state is established. Trump's plan, though, says Hamas will have no future role in the Gaza Strip, and they propose it will be temporarily governed by technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee before finally being handed over to the Palestinian Authority. But yeah, as we are now, Martin, we are just waiting for two big conclusions. The Israeli cabinet meeting in Tel Aviv right now, which is happening at this precise minute, And of course, this cabinet meeting in the White House behind me now, President Trump there with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the rest of the big guns from the Trump administration. And as soon as he comes out, I suspect we'll have some big news. Word on the street is that Israel will accept the first terms of this first phase, and that will trigger the release of the hostages and indeed the ceasefire. And finally, Martin, maybe, I won't hold my breath actually, but maybe some people this side of the pond, and you know, in the UK as well and across the West, may finally give President Trump some credit for being, as what he describes himself, the peace president.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a cold day in hell before a lot of people with the worst Trump derangement syndrome do say thank you to Donald Trump. But look, you've got a ringside seat there for history. Ben Leo will cross back to you live throughout the show as Donald Trump appears there at the White House. Thank you very much, Ben Leo. Superb. Now back to politics this side of the pond, because it's not even been implemented yet, but Sir Keir Starmer is already looking into expanding the use of his digital ID. When the scheme was announced last month, it was made clear, apparently, they would only need to use your digital ID to work in the UK. It was meant, of course, to be clamping down on illegal immigration. However, now Keir Starmer is floating the idea that the IDs could be used for accessing public services, such as benefits, on a voluntary basis, of course, if you believe the Prime Minister. Let's now speak with the Executive Director of the age verification providers, Ian Colby. Ian, welcome to the show. A lot of people were perhaps naturally suspicious of a Prime Minister who, in opposition, backed the use of COVID passports for anybody to access basic civil liberties such as churches, pubs and gyms. Suddenly, when the ID is proposed, it's to clamp down on illegal immigration, and already we're seeing mission creep. Are people wrong to be suspicious?
I think in this country, since the Second World War, we've been very nervous about any ability for the authorities to say papers, please, and that applies to digital papers just as much as physical papers. I think what Sir Keir Starmer is missing in Downing Street is Sir Humphrey Appleby, who would say, for example, to Jim Happicott in that comedy, "Minister, if you must do this damn silly thing, please don't do it in this damn silly way." And frankly, by making ID mandatory in the way they've done and being so loud about that, it's not surprising we've seen 2.8 million people sign a petition to have the whole thing prevented before it's even started. One thing we do need to understand is there are plenty of benefits from digital identity, but we don't need a multi-billion pound programme over a number of years, probably 3 years they'll start, and I doubt it'll be delivered before 5, because all government IT projects overrun. And we will be, we already have this through a bill that the Prime Minister himself put through. It was the 5th piece of law that this government put through, the Data Use and Access Bill, which created the ability for private sector companies to be audited and certified to issue digital identities. But the key thing here is that you get the choice as to which provider you go to, and you can choose one that you trust. And I think the biggest issue people are going to have with this, and certainly the people I talk to in the digital identity community are worried about, is surveillance. And we saw just recently it took Apple to go to court to prevent the government from breaking their encryption system, because Apple was a third party involved in that process, and they went to a secret court, but they went to try and prevent it. Well, who's going to go to court to try and stop the government building surveillance into their digital identity app? There is no third party in there to be looking out for our privacy and our rights as citizens. So I think it's much better that we have a voluntary system. You choose the provider, you get it from the private sector. They can, make sure that the IT is privacy preserving, which it needs to be from the outset.
Okay, Ian Colby,
a lot of information to give you to start with.
No, it's superb. We have to leave it there. We need to be running out of time, but I think it's worth pointing out that even Labour's own MPs are fearful that Sir Keir Starmer has the reverse Midas touch. Any idea that he comes up with, the public simply don't like. Ian Colby, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Superb to have your company. Now, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's a forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Park Estate and the anti-litter champion. Great to see you. What made you think of this, Duncan?
I think just the huge amount of litter. I said to the children, when I was their age, we would be able to go from this beautiful estate, which I'm so lucky to live in, to Witham or Chelmsford or Braintree, and you'll never see any litter. And today it's so different. And, you know, we're thinking we've got to affect some kind of behavioural change. And the best place to start with that is with young minds. It's so baffling to me that people don't prioritise litter, because if you think about it, all the ills of society that our civic leaders are trying to sort out are characterised by, you know, antisocial behaviour, lack of personal responsibility, selfishness, lack of community spirit. And if you toss a plastic bottle or a disused coffee cup or a wrapper out of your window, one is displaying exactly the same characteristics as, you know, we need to resolve all the other bigger antisocial problems.
What reaction are you getting from today's children? Are they a bit astonished about the fact that they shouldn't throw litter around?
Yeah, no, every time you ask the question, has anybody seen anyone littering? Up went 500 hands. Have you ever littered? And up went to sort of 10 very brave little hands.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 to 5, and Reform councillors in Lancashire have called for the National Inquiry into grooming gangs to conduct an investigation in their county. Council leaders today claim there's never been a proper investigation into the rape networks operating within the area, with victims believing that there's been missed opportunities to tackle this grotesque abuse. Let's now speak with Reform UK councillor Maria Jones. Maria, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. A lot of people believe that survivors never got the true justice they believe they were deserved, and you're taking action in Lancashire. Tell us more.
Yes. Very good afternoon to you and your viewers. We met with a number of victims and their families. Unfortunately, they've been failed by police, by our justice system, by the safeguarding organisations. They've been failed. It's a national scandal. And yet there seems to be no urgency in discovering the depth to which this goes. Now, where we are today, the government is dragging its feet on this inquiry that's supposed to happen in 7 months, and they haven't even appointed anyone to lead it. Well, if this is of any assistance, I would like to put myself forward to lead on this. I believe I can bring the necessary focus, objectivity and leadership to ensure it's carried out throughout and most effectively. This government are going out of their way to sweep it under the carpet, which begs the question why, and why they are keeping quiet about this. Silence is a defence of the guilty.
Well, it's fair to say, Maria Jones, the Labour Party would claim that they are conducting the inquiry, although it has to be said they were kind of dragged into it, you might say. And we know in Lancashire, in areas such as Blackpool, Burnley, Blackburn, these kind of post-industrial towns with high populations of Muslims, it has to be said, in some of them we have a problem. What do you what's next? What's victory look like?
Well, the victory would be us, the Reform Council, fighting for the rights of the victim. And it's for us to take them serious, to listen to them, not to judge them, believe them, and that these are the failures of the previous administrative in terms of dealing with this national scandal. So we are going to be totally opposite of what they've experienced so far. We will listen to them. We will believe them, and we will provide them with the care, and most importantly, we will deliver justice for them.
OK, we have to leave it there. Councillor Maria Jones, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. Appreciate your time. Now, a Home Office spokesperson has told GB News this: the sexual abuse of children by grooming gangs is one of the most horrific crimes imaginable, and every allegation must be thoroughly investigated, no matter where it leads. We have committed to a new national inquiry, which will undertake specific investigations locally. Now, stick with us, because any moment now, Donald Trump is set to address America and the entire world on the verge, the eve of this historic peace deal being announced in the Middle East. Stick with us for Donald Trump live from DC. You're on GB News with me, Martin Daubney.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in. It's going to dominate our weather, not just through the rest of today, but through the next few days. It's not entirely sunny. It's a fairly cloudy high pressure bringing in this Atlantic air. But there are breaks in the cloud, and certainly southern parts of the UK and the far northeast benefiting from cloud breaks as we go through the evening and overnight. It's where we've got those cloud breaks that temperatures fall into the single figures. Otherwise, for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We're going to see further outbreaks of light rain and drizzle for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland and northwest England, northwest Wales as well. Some of that spilling into the Midlands. A mild night where we've got the cloud. Where we haven't got the cloud, single figure temperatures at the break of dawn, and a few mist and fog patches for the southwest of England. Eastern Scotland, I think, a bit more of a breeze here, so less cool first thing. But certainly plenty of sunshine for eastern parts of Aberdeenshire into Fife, for example, Edinburgh. Western Scotland still seeing a lot of cloud, Northern Ireland likewise. It's across Wales, the Midlands and central southern England where the thickest cloud will be. That's where we'll see some spots of rain and drizzle during the morning. That will tend to fizzle away as the day progresses. Any mist and fog in the southwest will lift as well. And then actually it does turn a little brighter. The cloud lifts and breaks, particularly for North Wales, Northern England, much of Scotland. A brighter day to come here compared with Thursday. And temperatures are responding well, 17, 18 Celsius where we get some sunshine. I think where we've got the thicker cloud and a stronger wind in the far north and northwest, 13 or 14 degrees. But it's a fine end to Friday for many, a bit more cloud there across southern areas compared with Thursday, but clearer spells further north. And it's similar as we go into the weekend. That high pressure continues to dominate. I think a little more sunshine expected through Saturday and Sunday, but not for everyone.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24, sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Currently on the M8 eastbound off Slip at junction 6A near Chappie Hall, a broken down vehicle is causing delays. Motorists should proceed cautiously. In Essex, a vehicle fire has forced the closure of all lanes on the A12 northbound between junction 23 and junction 24. The A38 westbound in the city of Plymouth is closed following an accident that has overturned a vehicle. Expect delays here as well. For train services, there's a disruption on cross-country routes between Brockenhurst and Southampton Central, and Elna services are affected between Harrogate and Leeds. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for the latest travel updates.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's show. After 2 years and 2 days of brutal conflict, the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is finally due to begin tonight. With all 20 remaining surviving Israeli hostages set to be released on Monday, might we finally see peace in the Middle East? And we'll have all the latest on this truly historic day. And very shortly, we'll be live from the White House as Donald Trump is set to address the nation and indeed the world. And it is now said that Israel will travel to the country on Sunday to Jerusalem. And Donald Trump will host a cabinet meeting shortly that is expected to shed more light on that peace deal. And might Donald Trump win the Nobel Peace Prize he believes he so richly deserves? But as the guns fall silent in Gaza, will the pro-Palestine marches on British streets finally fizzle out? Well, ahead of their own Downing Street protests later on this evening, I'll be joined in the studio by the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism to ask them, does the Palestine mob truly want peace, or will their culture war rage on? And after a petition to stop Sir Keir Starmer's digital ID plans topped 2.8 million, the embattled PM now faces a fresh revolt from his own MPs. One disgruntled Labour MP has blasted Sir Keir Starmer's reverse Midas touch, claiming the plan has been tainted for another 5 years. Might this be Sir Keir Starmer's poll tax moment? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Well, to the show on this truly historic day as the world awaits Donald Trump to take that stage in the White House to give us more detail on this historic peace deal in the Middle East. The world is waiting, so let's get straight into our news bulletins with Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories. Donald Trump says Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal, a potential breakthrough that could see fighting halt within hours. The deal would see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. The IDF says it's already preparing to adjust deployment lines ahead of the key cabinet meeting in Jerusalem in a few moments' time. If ministers sign off, a 72-hour countdown begins for the hostages to be freed, with President Trump predicting all 20 surviving captives will be home by Monday. Mr. Trump spoke to Fox News just hours after the deal was agreed.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's brought peace to the world, I'm telling you.
The Prime Minister has personally thanked the US President for his role in the plan to end the fighting in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, of Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the first phase of a Gaza peace plan would not have happened without President Trump's leadership.
I will take this opportunity to put on record my thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations. It is a relief to the world, and I think particularly of the hostages who've been held a very long time and their families, and to all the civilians in Gaza who've been so affected by this conflict. And so it does now need to be implemented. And as for the next stages, we, the UK, stand ready to work with others on implementing the next stages.
Sir Keir Starmer has been given a bold welcome in India, with streets in Mumbai lined with thousands of photos of him and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On his first visit to the country, he's led a record delegation of more than 100 UK business, university and cultural leaders on a 2-day trade mission. He's been unveiling new business and film deals, saying the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. And speaking on digital IDs, the Prime Minister told GB News in his speech today that they're now about accessing your own money.
You can see from Estonia the speed with which people can access services that are available to them, which have been transformational, and there's great enthusiasm in Estonia for it. Here in India, I think it's 1 billion people have digital ID. It's been taken up on a voluntary basis in huge numbers. Not least because it means that you can access your own money, make payments so much more easily than is available with others. So I think now we need to go out and make that case of the huge benefits that this will bring. There needs to be a national debate about it, and I think that the more people see the benefits that come with this, the more, as has happened in other countries, people say that will make my life easier.
Let's go live now to the White House, where the US President Donald Trump is hosting a cabinet meeting.
This is Donald Trump at the cabinet meeting there in DC. He's an hour and 5 minutes late, signing some executive orders there. We're waiting to get an audio feed in. This was due to be an ordinary humdrum cabinet meeting where Donald Trump can announce anything from who a new appointment is, who a new bill is. Today, of course, is going to be dramatically different because of the announcement earlier on of a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza. So this is routine political business happening in front of us, but once that is out of the way, is when the show truly starts. The show today is, of course, about only one thing, and that is the peace deal in Gaza. Donald Trump is speaking here. Let's go over.
Can you believe that? I've never seen that happen before. The press actually broke out in applause. Good. Columbus Day. We're back. Columbus Day, we're back, Italians. We love the Italians. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Great. Thank you very much.
Have a good one, sir.
So we covered Scandinavia and Italy. Not bad. Now for the rest of the world. So I want to thank everybody for being here. As you know, last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there, and we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing. And the amazing thing is all of the countries over there, from Qatar to Saudi Arabia to UAE to all of them, I mean, the rich ones, the less than rich ones, they've all come together, something which is amazing, actually. They've all come together for this, and they're really probably the best relationships they've ever had. So it's been really something incredible that nobody thought it was possible to get it done. And very importantly, the hostages are coming back. As you know, they consider them hostages. They talk about them as hostages, but there are approximately 28 dead people, mostly young, mostly men, but and boys. I mean, boys. The one woman talked about her baby. Her baby's 25 years old, but you know, to her it's her baby, and we're bringing them home. We're getting everything, and to those parents, the dead young man is just as important, as though this person were alive. It's amazing. I've never seen anything quite like it. I've been very much involved. I've never seen anything quite like it. But it's really peace in the Middle East. And you remember October 7th was terrible, but also from the Hamas standpoint, they probably lost 70,000 people. That's big retribution. That's big retribution. But at some point, that whole thing has to stop, and we're going to see to it. Gaza is going to be slowly redone. You have tremendous wealth in that part of the world by certain countries, and just a small part of that, what they make will do wonders for Gaza. And I think you're going to see some tremendous countries stepping up and putting up a lot of money and taking care of things. But there's tremendous spirit like I haven't seen. And even the news, I won't call it fake news for this purpose, because they really were very fair today, I must tell you, in all cases. But they covered it very well. They covered it very fairly. Everybody loves it, everybody. People that were never giving us a fair shake, frankly, they can't even believe it. They're so, they're amazed by it. A lot of people are. But it was just everything came together. I think the attack was very important on Iran, because let's say that didn't happen, they'd probably by now have a nuclear weapon, numerous nuclear weapons, and therefore, even if we signed a deal, there'd be a big dark cloud over it, and it wouldn't be the same thing. So Iran's different, but Iran wants to work on peace now. They've informed us, and they've acknowledged that they are totally in favor of this deal. They think it's a great thing. So we appreciate that, and we'll work with Iran. As you know, we have major sanctions on Iran and lots of other things. We would like to see them be able to rebuild their country too, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. So I want to express my tremendous gratitude to the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey for helping us reach this incredible day, and for being there. They were there with us all the way. And of course, as you know, Saudi Arabia and Jordan and so many. I will tell you, President Erdogan was personally involved in dealing with Hamas and some of the others. He's been great. They've all been really amazing. Indonesia's been amazing. Indonesia's been fantastic. The whole world has come together for this. People that didn't get along, people that didn't like each other, neighboring countries that frankly didn't like each other, but now it's just this moment in time. So we look forward to welcoming the hostages, like you can't believe, home to their families, and that'll take place early next week. We hope Monday or Tuesday. And all Americans should be proud of the role that our country has played in bringing this terrible conflict to an end. And I want to thank, some of the people. JD, you were fantastic, and Pete, you were great. Marco was fantastic. Some of you were very much involved. I'm looking around. So indirectly, I think almost everybody in this room was involved. Susie, I want to thank you very much. You were incredible. You've done an incredible job. So, and yes, John, what you've done was invaluable. CIA, John Ratcliffe, and he's done an incredible job. So I want to thank you all, and if I'm missing anybody, I apologize, but you've been amazing. And then you have Steve Witkoff, who worked so hard. And you remember we settled 7, this is number 8, we settled 7 wars, or major conflicts, but wars. And this is number 8. And the one that I thought would be maybe the quickest of all would be Russia-Ukraine, and I think that's going to happen too. But in the meantime, they're losing about 7,000 people a week, and that seems pretty bad. They're losing mostly soldiers, young soldiers. They go out to war, and they're getting killed. And while it doesn't affect us in a lot of ways, we've got a big ocean in between, you don't want to see that happen. It was a big mistake. That war should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president. So we're here this morning for a cabinet meeting as my administration continues to deliver for the American people, despite the radical left lunatics that shut down our government. You have Democrats that they've lost their way. They have no leadership. We don't even know who to deal with over there. At least they know who to deal with. We have no idea who we're dealing with over there. It's like they have no idea what they're doing. Republicans have voted repeatedly to pass a clean, nonpartisan bill to reopen government at the same funding levels. We're not going to do anything only good for health care. We're really, I think, become the party of good health care. And they keep using health care as a cudgel. They want to try and get everyone thinking about health care. We're the ones that are saving health care. In fact, one of the things we're doing is we're going to be reducing the cost of medicines by 100%, 200, 300, 500%, and even more than that, because as you know, we're in the process of favored nations right now. We've exercised a clause because we were subsidizing the entire world. The entire world pays a fraction of what the United States has been paying. And we've already, numerous Pfizer and other companies have already signed, and other countries are a bigger problem because they've been getting a subsidized rate. We've been paying for years. This has gone on for 30 years. We've been reducing the rate of drugs for other countries because we've been paying much more than we're supposed to. And they used all sorts of ideas like research and development. I said, what about Germany? What about these other countries? Aren't they paying? No, we have to pay research and development. It was all nonsense, and I couldn't listen to it anymore. So it's a very radical, big, tough shift. Very tough. We got a lot of things going on today. But, you know, and you probably heard me say this in my first term, I think it was my 3rd year, we reduced drugs from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And I was so proud of it. I actually had a news conference to announce it, and it was 1/8 of 1%. Think of that, which is barely a reduction. But it's the first time in 28 years that there was a reduction in drug prices for the year. So from the beginning to the end, it was 1/8 of 1%. And I was so proud of myself. I did something that nobody else could do. But when I started to think about it, I said, it doesn't make sense. And then I'm starting to look at numbers where a pill or treatment or some pharmaceutical product is selling in Europe for 10% of what we pay for in New York City or in any one of our places and cities, states. And then I see people leaving for other countries to go buy their pharmaceuticals, where they make journeys to various other countries, including Europe, where they got the best bargains of all. And I put an end to it. It's over. And now we're, in major, I guess, disputes, but we're winning the disputes by a lot. With the countries, a couple of countries said, we won't do this. I said, well, it's unfair that we're paying 10%, and, you're paying just a fraction of what we're paying for the same product made in the same plant. And they said, well, we're not going to do it. I said, that's okay. You don't have to do it. But I'm going to put a tariff of 9% or 7% or whatever the amount of money is. And I'm going to put a tariff on your country for the amount of money that you're taking advantage of us for. No, you can't. I said, yeah, I can do that. I'm going to do that. And they would immediately agree. And it'd make the tariff substantially more than the number we're talking about. And they would immediately agree. So we have the consent, I think, Bobby, of every country, essentially. They know that if they don't do it, we're going to put a tariff on for double the price, and then they're going to do it. So we never had that before. You never had anybody in here that knew what the hell they were doing, I'll be honest. It really it makes me angry. Because for years and years, and this started many years ago, and basically we subsidize the world. So this is going to have a huge positive impact on Medicare, Medicaid, even Social Security. But anything where there's pharmaceuticals, drugs involved, it's going to have a tremendous impact. So we're going to get drug reductions of 100%. I told you 1/8 of 1% that I was proud of myself. Now you're going to get 100%, 150%, 200, 300, 400, 500%. You're going to get the biggest drug reductions that you've ever seen. And they're already, I guess they're starting to kick in, but we've made deals with numerous companies we're going for the full board. We want whatever the price is. So that would mean that the world price, because the world is bigger than the United States, a lot more people, but the world price will go up a little bit and our price will come down a lot. So if a pill sells for $10 in London and $100 here, the pill will go to $20 in London and $20 for us. It's pretty simple. And that is a number that nobody can even fathom. It's a little like tariffs. Nobody knew how big they were. Nobody knew until they started seeing the trillions of dollars that have come in. I don't know why they didn't understand it. It's something they should have understood. We were taken advantage of for years with tariffs, and now I don't want to say we're taking advantage, but we've become a very strong country because of the money that's coming in. Republicans have voted repeatedly to pass a clean, nonpartisan bill to reopen our government, and remember, at the same funding levels both parties have supported in the past. So the radical Democrats have chosen to put the economy of our country. We have the best economy we've ever had. We had the best economy in my first term, but we have an economy that's blowing it away, and we have the Democrats that are trying to obstruct. They don't want to have a good economy. I don't think they want to have a good country. That's why they try and stop our law enforcement from doing what we did in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., we have a great, safe, beautiful capital right now. Beautiful. It's so safe. You can walk down the street. Numerous people standing before me were mugged. And you're not going to get mugged anymore. We have a safe capital, one of the safest. We took it from one of the most unsafe places to one of the most safe places in the country. And we also beautified it, and we're in the process of doing even more so. So we're very proud of our capital. Again, we were embarrassed by our capital. A lot of people being killed. They'd come from Iowa, Indiana, Florida. They'd come up, and they end up getting shot. They're not getting shot. We moved out 1,700 people approximately, right? Approximately 1,700 hardened criminals, career criminals. They moved them out. So Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the congressional Democrats are holding the entire federal government hostage. I will tell you, a lot of Democrats want to get this thing open too. They do. They're calling us, and they just want to get it open. And all we're doing is saying, just play the same thing until we get it straight. And they don't know how to go about it. I mean, and the problem is we really don't know who the hell is leading the Democrats. You have this AOC, I don't know her at all, but I watched her the other day. She said, well, if they want, they could come to my office. That's not leadership, you know. The only one that challenged her actually was Nancy Pelosi, and Nancy's not looking too good. I don't know what happened to Nancy, but she's not looking great. But she was the only one, I give her credit, she was the only one that challenged her. But AOC said that they can come to her office and negotiate, the Republicans. And we're saying, oh, I didn't know she was in leadership. But she's taking Hakeem Jeffries' place, and Schumer's afraid that she's going to run against him. And right now, I don't know, he can change, life is crazy, right? But right now he can't beat, I don't think he can beat anybody. So he'll lose in a primary. I would say he'll retire before he loses in a primary. So I think Schumer's going to retire because he can't beat anybody. His polls are so bad. Meanwhile, the Democrat shutdown is causing pain and suffering for hardworking Americans, including our military, our air traffic controllers, and impoverished mothers, people with young children, people that have to live not the greatest of lives. But we're doing so many tax cuts. We've cut their taxes, the great big beautiful bill. We've cut their taxes at levels that nobody's ever seen. I mean, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. It's been a great thing for a lot of people. They're doing great. Despite all of the damage that it's caused, the shutdown has been, you know, pretty damaging. I mean, it's not yet because it's early, but it gets a little bit worse as it goes along. And we'll be making cuts that will be permanent. And we're only going to cut Democrat programs. I hate to tell you. I guess that makes sense. But we're only cutting Democrat programs. But we're going to start that. And we have Russell, we can talk to you about it if he wants to, but we'll be cutting some very popular Democrat programs that aren't popular with Republicans, frankly, because that's the way it works. They wanted to do this, so we'll give them a little taste of their own medicine. But Chuck Schumer proclaimed this morning that every day gets better for them. No, every day it's actually getting worse for them. And they're having a rebellion in the Democrat Party because they want to stop. And if you saw all of Schumer's, I watched last night like 10 different times over the years, he said, you can't shut down government, you can't shut down, and now he's the one that shut it down. So this is a confession that he's acting not to serve the people, but to serve the partisan interests of his party. And I don't think he's serving them well because they're way down. Look, they just lost an election in a landslide. You know, it was interesting. I watched Kamala, who was a sad figure. I watched her the other day saying, the election was very close. I said, no, the election was a landslide. We won the popular vote by millions. We won the Electoral College by, I think, 312 or 315 to 220 something. But there's another one that we won that's probably, that's why when you see the maps are completely red. It's counties. The counties, we won at 2,505 to 525. So 2,500 to 525. That's called one of the greatest, biggest landslides in history. And that's one that people are using now as a primary. But literally, when you see it colored in, the entire country is red representing Republicans. So, you know, they go around, they just lie. They just lie. And everything's a big lie with them. Well, the other side, and the other thing I don't understand is, Christie, I looked at crime numbers in Chicago. They're through the roof. And I have a governor who stands up every day and tells us how wonderful Chicago is. It's just a lie. It's like a con job. It's like Gavin Newsom. He says how well he's doing in California, and they're doing terribly. Population's getting smaller. People are leaving. And other people are coming in. And, you know, I wouldn't say it's an even trade. While the other side is focused on playing games, the Trump administration is focused on creating jobs, bringing down prices, and we've really brought them down a lot. That's the other thing. We're bringing down prices a lot. We're bringing down grocery prices, but the big thing is energy. When you bring down energy, everything comes down, and the energy prices are way down. I see we're down to about $61 now a barrel, and what gasoline's going to be, I think gasoline's going to be below $2 at some point in the pretty near future. It's very low, much lower than it was under Sleepy Joe. And we're restoring law and order in our country. We're restoring it here, but we're restoring it right now. We're in Memphis. We're going to Chicago. We're going to other cities. Many governors are asking us to, including Democrats are trying to ask. I don't know what the big problem is. If I were a Democrat governor, I'd be saying, whatever you can do to get crime down, I'll take anybody. You can bring them in I don't care who it is. A lot of people said that. They interviewed women, these beautiful women in Chicago, black women with a MAGA hat, a red hat. They said, we don't care who he brings in here, but this place is really dangerous. We just want crime to stop. It's true. They don't care. You know, they don't differentiate between the National Guard and the Marines. They don't care. They'll take anybody. And that's the way it is. I mean, they want to see, they want what we did in D.C. They want to happen to them. And it's happening in Memphis already. It's still, I see in less than a week, the numbers are really good. And it'll be great. And it will fix that. We'll go to various other places, and we're going to be stopping crime in our cities, and that's a great thing, and we won't get credit for it, but it's a great thing. We've launched a historic campaign to take back our nation from the gangs and the street criminals, violent repeat offenders, illegal alien lawbreakers, domestic extremists, and savage, bloodthirsty cartels. And very little, by the way, is coming in by water, in case you haven't known. The drugs aren't coming in by water. In fact, we can't even find any boats in the water anymore. We had boats, we were like a subway train loaded up with drugs. Every boat, every single boat that you see getting taken out kills 25,000 Americans. Think of that, because it's, you know, it's pretty tough stuff, but it kills 25,000 Americans. So when you hear that, it's no longer tough. But here in Washington, we've deployed federal law enforcement and National Guard to restore public safety, and we're working to replicate that in numerous places all over the country. And we have a very powerful military. We have a very powerful National Guard. I want to thank the governor of Texas, who has been, as usual, great. Governor Abbott, he gave us 400 troops without even a question. And we have other governors likewise doing what has to be done, because they know we have to confront crime. We're directly confronting the sinister threat of left-wing domestic terrorism and violence, including the terrorist group Antifa. You saw that yesterday. We had a news conference. Antifa's out of control in Portland and other places, but mostly Portland in the case of Antifa. And we had people that were really badly affected by them. It was terrible. So one of those things, but we're knocking the hell out of them. And we're looking for the people that are funding them, and those people are going to be just as guilty as the people that smack people over the head with a baseball bat. And I'd like now to ask Attorney General Bondi and Secretary Noem to discuss this a little bit and tell where we are. And then we'll go around the room. We'll go quickly. We're going to go quickly if we can, because we have a lot of things to do, including I won't be spending that much time here because I'll be leaving fairly soon for the Middle East. And I'm very honored to be involved with that, I'll tell you. It's a great thing for our country. People are so happy about it. I've never experienced anything quite like it. I've never seen such universal praise for being able to do something. No, it's something that nobody thought was possible, and we're going to end up having peace in the Middle East. Who would have thought? So, Pam, could you start, and then Christy, please.
Sure, President Trump, and despite the Democrat shutdown of our government, our law enforcement officers are out there working without paychecks, round the clock, to keep and make America safe. Secretary Hegseth and I were recently in Memphis. We had 1,100 law enforcement officers in one room with us. The Memphis PD, they were the happiest to see us, don't you think, Secretary Hegseth, of anyone. We had ATF, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals. I'm not sure if our park police were there. We had Treasury, Secretary Bessent, and of course we had Secretary Noem's Homeland Security, all working together with the Guard. They were so happy to have us there. We've been making arrests left and right. So far, we made 562 arrests and seized 144 illegal guns, just in the short time we've been in Memphis.
And many of these people are career criminals. And when you take them out of a place, your crime rate just goes down. These people commit crimes every single day. They're sick. and we're taking them out. In some cases, we're bringing them back to their countries where Biden allowed, with the stupid open borders that we had in our country, to come in, but they're being brought back to other places, or they're being put in jail, but they're career criminals.
President Trump, last night alone, we made 91 arrests, 19 firearms off the streets, and one was a warrant for a homicide, and 4 sex offenders who had active warrants. One was a sex offender on a child. Everything we did in Memphis was worth it, in my opinion, for that one arrest. Think about that. We got a child rapist off the streets, but yet we've made 562 arrests and still going strong in Memphis. Just what we did in D.C. But it's because it's all of us as a team working for you to make America safe, all together, round the clock.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pam.
Thank
You're doing
you,
a great
President
job.
Trump.
And it's amazing that we're not getting cooperation from Democrats. It's like, it's a new issue. You know, we have all the old issues of the wall and the border and all of the things, men playing in women's sports they still want that, transgender for everybody. All these issues are so crazy, but we have a new one. It's called crime. We stop crime and they allow crime. They want crime. It doesn't make sense. I think it's as ridiculous as the other things that we talk about all the time. But I've added it onto our list, a 5-letter word called crime. We stop it, and they actually incite it. It's crazy. You would think they'd want them. You'd think they'd want Christy and Pam and all of the people. If we needed the military, people will be there. We've got a massive military. We have the best numbers we've ever had for recruitment. We have a lot of people now. We have people that can't get into them. In a great economy, they want to be soldiers again. A year ago, they didn't want to even think about it. Same thing as with police and firemen, everything. They want to join. They're proud of our country again. Christy, go ahead, please.
Well, sir, thank you for your leadership and for deploying all of government to help us keep our country safe. You have talked extensively about how threatened our ICE officers are, but all of our law enforcement out there. And we saw the shooting in Dallas at that facility, so we're hardening all of our buildings and making sure that we have more security measures, snipers on the roof, people to protect our law enforcement while they're out there on the streets. But what I'm also doing, sir, is, and with your authority, is we're purchasing more buildings in Chicago to operate out of. We're gonna not back off. In fact, we're doubling down, and we're gonna be in more parts of Chicago in response to the people there. And then I was there a few days ago and looked at some facilities that we can deploy more law enforcement out of. Because what they're trying to do with these riots and violence is distract us and keep us from going after those murderers and rapists that are out in the streets. And then I was in Portland, went out and back on Tuesday and met with the governor, met with the mayor, met with the chief of police and the superintendent of the highway patrol. They are all lying and disingenuous and dishonest people. Because as soon as you leave the room, then they make the exact opposite response. So we're looking at new facilities to purchase. They're in Portland too, and we're going to double down. And I told them if they didn't meet our demands for safety and security on the streets and work with us, then we were going to bring in more federal law enforcement. So I want to thank Pete and the Department of War for all their help. They've been fantastic. But while we fight litigation and work with Pam on that, we're going to send more of our resources and men and women out there to keep everybody safe. So no worries. What we see in D.C. and what we see in Memphis for benefits for people in the safety and security, we'll see that in Chicago and Portland.
And the numbers in Memphis, it's only a week, but the numbers have been amazing, I understand.
That's exactly right.
The crime numbers are way down.
Fantastic. And it shows what a partnership can be between local law enforcement and the federal government. And if we have to do it the hard way in Portland and Chicago, we will. But the people demand
And
the
President
safety.
Trump, my lawyers are in court right now as we speak for you, arguing in Chicago and Portland to keep them safe, to bring in the Guard. The government doesn't want it there, but we do. We're going to keep their citizens safe, thanks to you.
The people want it. I don't understand the politics of it. I don't understand why Pritzker is trying to protect people that are really bad.
They're more scared of the anarchists that are on the street and the politics of it than they are of doing the right thing.
I think they're afraid.
Yeah,
I think
they're
they're threatened. They don't tell us, but I think Pritzker's threatened by people. Because there's no other reason that this could be possible, that they don't want to have a safe Chicago. And we can solve the problem very quickly. And we're doing that anyway, regardless of if he doesn't want it, or if he does want it, we're doing it anyway. So make sure.
I asked the mayor that himself. He said that Portland was perfectly safe, a beautiful city, no problems. And I said, well, why did you clear the streets for me today then and build out a 4-block radius to make sure I could get in and out of here? And these people on the street screaming death to ICE. There's graffiti that says Molotovs melt ICE. We have the guillotines. We're going to use them.
Portland's almost different. It's like anarchists.
It is. It really is.
You know, it's really different than a lot of the others. This is a sick...
That was Donald Trump there at the historic cabinet meeting in the White House. Started off with a stroke of the pen, reversing a hugely controversial point of order when Joe Biden changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And a lot of people believe that was eroding America's founder, a totemic point. Donald Trump said in April he'd reverse that at a stroke of a pen. He did. He did that. And then he talked, of course, about peace in the Middle East. We are getting the hostages back on Monday or Tuesday. He said nobody thought this was possible, but it is. We are making the impossible possible. Now, if you want to keep up to date with that speech live, you can do so. You can go to that QR code there on your screen, or of course you can head to GBN2, or also you can go to YouTube to watch the rest of that live. Well, let's go straight now to GBNews presenter Ben Leo, who joins us live from Washington, D.C. Ben, welcome back. You have a ringside seat there to history. Donald Trump breezing through domestic politics, but of course the key moment was peace in the Middle East, and he talked very emotionally about reuniting hostages, both alive and dead, with their families and how important that was. Ben, over to you.
Yes, hello Martin. An extraordinary cabinet meeting. It was a victory lap for not just Gaza, but almost every domestic policy going. The National Guard, he even managed to squeeze in the term Sleepy Joe Biden in there, talking about gas prices, and Kamala Harris as well, who suggested the other day it was a close election in November last year. But anyway, the headline conversation, of course, was peace in the Middle East. President Trump saying that the hostages, of course, will be released maybe Monday or Tuesday. He was suggesting maybe he'd even be in Gaza for the release of those hostages. I'm not sure logistically and security-wise how that would work. Maybe it's probably not a wise thing to do, but it's suggesting even that after his trip to Jerusalem on Sunday, he could even pop to Gaza. He said that this is one of the biggest achievements of his life and thanked all the neighbouring countries in the Middle East, the likes of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Oman, and even saying that, you know, many of these states, many of these people in the Middle East can't stand each other. They don't get on with each other, but they've all come together now for this momentous occasion to bring peace in Gaza. And he was also talking about Iran as well. He said if Iran wants to work on peace now, they can come forward. We'll work with them. The attack on Iran, President Trump said, from Israel and America's own attack with the B-2 bombers, he said that was a very important occasion because this whole peace deal, which we are very close to securing, would have been overshadowed, he described, President Trump. It would be completely overshadowed if Iran still had what he argues a nuclear weapon. And he said that they would have had one by this point if the US didn't attack those nuclear sites in Iran some months ago. He said America should be proud in bringing this terrible conflict to an end. And of course, he takes massive credit for it. He said, I've already settled 7 wars. This is the 8th one. The one I thought I would have dealt with quicker than all was Russia-Ukraine. That proved a bit trickier to sort out, but I still have hope for that. So it could be, according to President Trump here, Martin, it could be 9 wars, which again begs the big question. The Nobel Peace Prize is being announced tomorrow, the winner of that prize. Will President Trump finally get what he's been asking for a very long time? It could be that all this has come just a bit too late in the day. I mean, you would have thought that the Norwegians, the panel who decides the Nobel Peace Prize, would have already picked their winner by now. But who knows? They could change late in the day. But yeah, Martin, an extraordinary cabinet meeting. President Trump already pretty much announcing that there's peace in the Middle East, that a ceasefire should come in 24 hours, and the hostages, those 20-odd hostages, will be released as well. And indeed, an important point which President Trump stressed inside the White House a minute ago, the bodies of those 25 hostages who have also died in captivity. He said when it comes to the parents, it's just as important to get those bodies back as it is those who are still alive, Martin.
Yeah, you're exactly right. To those parents, getting their babies back, he said, is as important as if they were alive. Incredibly poignant moment. Thank you, Ben Leo, there. An excellent summary of what was a truly momentous speech. Let's get back to the studio here in Westminster now for some analysis. This past hour, I've been joined in the studio by the Senior Research Fellow at the UCL Centre on US Politics, James D. Boys. James, welcome to the show, and you've been listening intently as I did. You wanted to talk about the significance of the Nobel Peace Prize because, of course, some people think there could be a last-minute squeak for Donald Trump to be nominated for this year's. But you're going to tell us why that's not possible, but also why you think the odds still might be stacked against Donald Trump.
Well, let me stress, it's not impossible because we're talking about Donald Trump here, and he has proved repeatedly that anything is possible. However, the Nobel Peace Prize has a very patchy history when it comes to rewarding American presidents. In 1906, it gave the Peace Prize to Teddy Roosevelt. But in 1973, in 1978, in 1998, it overlooked Presidents Nixon, Carter and Clinton, despite their roles in securing peace deals around the world, even where it notably gave a peace prize to Henry Kissinger for trying to negotiate a peace that Richard Nixon had sent him abroad to negotiate.
The exception, of course, was Barack Obama, who many believe didn't even deserve it.
Indeed, which makes that award even more remarkable because, as some people might know, you have to have the nominations in by the 31st of January in the year to be awarded, and Barack Obama had only taken office on January 20th of that
11 days later.
11 whole days. Indeed, it's quite remarkable. So will somebody have nominated Donald Trump much earlier in the year to put him on the list for consideration? It's possible. The list is tightly secured. We will find out tomorrow.
I want to talk to you about the list of leaders he read out. Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Indonesia. He even said Iran, we can work with Iran. I was struck, and I know you were struck also, by the total absence of any European countries that were read out. And shamefully, I believe, that includes the United Kingdom. Do you think history will look back at this, the bond between Israel and the United States, and who endeavoured to end this war, and who perhaps endeavoured to support the wrong team, and United Kingdom were completely absent from the battlefield in terms of their support for Israel, perhaps in their darkest hour?
It was fascinating. We had Donald Trump over here in the UK very recently, and those press conferences with Keir Starmer, he was asked pointedly about the recognition of Palestine, which of course he refused to do while the president was in country. Almost as soon as Marine One and Air Force One had taken off, they make that announcement. It's notable that the European nations and Canada have all come out in recent days recognising the state of Palestine, just as it is now that Donald Trump appears to be making peace in the region. It really does, I think, present a really interesting juxtaposition with regards to these issues. And I think it also speaks to, it must be said, Donald Trump's personal diplomacy, the way in which he has exploited his relationships with these leaders in the world.
OK, thank you very much for joining us and waiting patiently throughout that speech. And that's James D. Boys. Thank you very much for joining us here in the studio. Now, stick with us. There's plenty more to come. If you search some holiday sun, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Liz Mitchell, MBE, gracing us with her presence on the soap this morning. Liz, so good to have you with us.
I am happy to be here.
You have the most incredible voice, the voice of a generation. The whole disco era is down to you. What do you think has made your songs so timeless? I mean, everybody knows them, don't they?
Everybody
knows them.
One thing I'm very grateful for is the temper of our music, because it seems to be very friendly, warming, and even our slow songs. I was playing one just the other day for my 2-year-old grandson, and he said, more. I was so happy.
I'm with him on that. There's a real sense with your music, though, that it is uplifting.
Yes.
And you feel happy listening to it. I mean, despite whatever it is you're singing about, almost, it's just there's a joy to it.
Yes, and that is really a gift, I think, that most artists would want to have, is that when they make their music that is lasting and that is bringing happiness to people. Because for me, that's the whole point of singing. You know, you should be able to make the people you're entertaining feel happy, hear something good, forget the pain for a moment and just want to dance and just feel good.
And Boney M music is all over TikTok, isn't it? It's being remixed all the time. How do you feel watching your music being reinvented like that?
It is really wonderful. This has been going on since the 90s, even before the 90s, people were remixing our songs. So it's the uniqueness of the vocals, because that's what is given to them, just the plain vocals, and then they put new music on it, and it still sounds like Boney M.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is more. Yeah, welcome back. It is 5:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, the campaign against anti-Semitism is set to protest in about an hour's time outside Downing Street, calling for an end to the so-called hate marches across the country. Now, this is a direct response to the pro-Palestinian protests, of course, that have taken place on October the 7th, despite pleas from the Prime Minister and the Jewish community for the marches to be postponed. Well, I'm joined in the studio by the Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the campaign against anti-Semitism, Stephen Silverman. Stephen, it's a pleasure to meet you at long last in person, and you're having this vigil outside Downing Street today, and you want these marches to be stopped. Tell us more.
Yeah, look, anti-Semitism is a virus. We know that. It's a particularly nasty one. It courses through society, it takes hold, and it is a nightmare to expunge. It requires prompt and urgent action. Now, we've seen that governments can act promptly and urgently with the virus, as they did with COVID. When it comes to anti-Semitism, which is potentially as fatal, not just for the Jewish community, but in the long term for our society in general, we have had 2 years of inertia, prevarication and appeasement. And you can draw a direct line from that to the terror attack in Manchester a week ago that left 2 Jewish people dead while they were going to the synagogue to pray on Yom Kippur. We are gathering this evening to demand that the words stop. We have had enough words. We need concrete, clear action from the government, and we need it to be driven down through the criminal justice system, through industry regulators, through our universities, and our national broadcaster needs to take a good hard look at itself as well. All of them are complicit in what happened last week.
Stephen Silverman, we've got a quick minute left. Can I ask you a basic question? Do you think the marchers, now that the war is seemingly ending, will stop? Is their march actually driven by peace in the Middle East, or is it actually driven by something else, hatred towards Jews?
If it was driven by peace, they would have been calling for the things that would have ended the Gazan suffering soonest. Hamas to surrender and the release of the hostages. Instead, week after week, they've been calling for intifada, jihad, the destruction of the world's only Jewish state. So if you ask, the straight answer to that question is no, I don't believe that they were interested in peace.
OK, Stephen Silverman, thank you for joining us, and I wish you a peaceful vigil tonight, and I really do hope there's not a counter-protest that turns up. I have heard rumours of that. I hope that doesn't happen, and I wish you peace in Israel and across the Middle East. Thank you for your pleasure.
Thank you.
For your company tonight in the studio. Now, don't go anywhere, because up next, of course, is Michelle Dewberry. Jubes & Co. is up next on a hugely important day in global politics. The queen of primetime TV, Michelle Dewberry, is up next.
There was I, Martin, thinking that you meant it was a hugely important day because it's my birthday. But of course, you were talking about Middle Eastern peace. Donald Trump, pivotal when it comes to that, but people still refusing to acknowledge the role that he has played. Trump derangement syndrome is as prominent as ever. I'll get into that and a whole lot more. Kelvin McKenzie and Aaron Bastani alongside me tonight. See you in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. High pressure is now moving in. It's going to dominate our weather not just through the rest of today but through the next few days. It's not entirely sunny, it's a fairly cloudy high pressure bringing in this Atlantic air. But there are breaks in the cloud and certainly southern parts of the UK and the far northeast benefiting from cloud breaks as we go through the evening and overnight. It's where we've got those cloud breaks that temperatures fall into the single figures. Otherwise, for much of the UK, it's cloudy. We're going to see further outbreaks of light rain and drizzle for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland and northwest England, northwest Wales as well. Some of that spilling into the Midlands. A mild night where we've got the cloud. Where we haven't got the cloud, single-figure temperatures at the break of dawn and a few mist and fog patches for the southwest of England. Eastern Scotland, I think, a bit more of a breeze here, so less cool first thing. But certainly plenty of sunshine for eastern parts of Aberdeenshire into Fife, for example, Edinburgh. Western Scotland still seeing a lot of cloud, Northern Ireland likewise. It's across Wales, the Midlands and central southern England where the thickest cloud will be. That's where we'll see some spots of rain and drizzle during the morning. That will tend to fizzle away as the day progresses. Any mist and fog in the southwest will lift as well. And then actually it does turn a little brighter. The cloud lifts and breaks, particularly for North Wales, Northern England, much of Scotland. A brighter day to come here compared with Thursday. And temperatures are responding well, 17, 18 Celsius where we get some sunshine. I think where we've got the thicker cloud and a stronger wind in the far north and northwest, 13 or 14 degrees. But it's a fine end to Friday for many, a bit more cloud there across southern areas compared with Thursday, but clearer spells further north. And it's similar as we go into the weekend. That high pressure continues to dominate. I think a little more sunshine expected through Saturday and Sunday, but not for everyone.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road users should exercise caution on the A9 Kessock Bridge due to high winds. In Thurrock, a collision on the M25 clockwise has closed one of 4 lanes between junctions 29 and 30, causing 20-minute delays. Drivers on the A46 northbound in Warwickshire face congestion between the A45 Coventry East and the M6 junction with 40-minute delays. All lanes are closed on the A38 westbound near Plymouth due to an overturned vehicle and a backlog. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services face disruption between Watford Junction and London Euston, while Elna is disrupted between Harrogate and Leeds. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.